This is a story set in a distorted world. Black holes began appearing everywhere, high in the skies, deep in the oceans, and across the land. From these portals, non-human entities emerged and launched brutal attacks on humanity. As the world plunged into chaos, a new kind of being arose, metahumans. Among them were immortals capable of surviving even with severed limbs or punctured organs. Shapeshifters could morph into powerful beasts like bears or wolves. Mages were once ordinary humans who had awakened extraordinary powers. Thanks to the efforts of the metahumans who resisted the invaders, peace was gradually restored. People came to refer to the year the portals first appeared as the Terrible Year. After the crisis, public focus shifted to the metahumans. Many believed they carried hazardous genetic material, making containment necessary. Fear and suspicion led to a rift between normal humans and their enhanced counterparts. Immortals integrated into the government. Shapeshifters allied themselves with a global corporation. Mages formed a hidden society and used magic to stay concealed. 20 years have passed since the Terrible Year. Even now, some metahumans continue to live secretly among ordinary people. We see the main character at a supermarket with his father. His father calls out to him and reveals something shocking. He is an immortal. The boy is stunned. His father explains that since he himself is an immortal, the blood should have passed on. The son questions why this is being revealed while buying spring onions. The father insists it's a secret, even from his wife. He reassures that he said it quietly, so it's fine. The son is still confused and jokes that immortals usually have clear skin and good looks. His father admits the son didn't inherit much of his appearance, but he's still an immortal. The awakening is expected on his 24th birthday, likely tonight at 11 p.m. The main character, still taken aback, reacts to how calmly his father is speaking. But his dad changes the topic, reminding him about buying garlic. The son insists they shouldn't get the minced ones, as his mother prefers to prepare it herself. His father agrees. Then his father emphasizes again not to tell his mother, who is unaware of his true identity. If she finds out, it could lead to divorce. The son urges his father to talk outside. A man at the counter had been enjoying their conversation, prompting the son to suggest moving out. Outside, his dad comments that his son is surprisingly strong, which is uncommon for immortals. He wonders if it's due to regular exercise. The boy laughs and says he doesn't work out much. Then he reveals something else. His strength likely comes from another secret he's been hiding even before learning he's an immortal. His mother is a shapeshifter. Eventually, they return home. The main character's mother is waiting and becomes happy seeing them. She asks about the garlic, and her husband confirms he bought the right ones. She checks if they're non-diced, and he reassures her. Delighted, they kiss each other. Their son, watching them, interrupts by reminding them that their son is present. A flashback from 2 years ago shows the boy asking his mother if she could shapeshift into Sailor's son. She confirms and even says she can do Devil Tail. He realizes she wasn't joking when she said she was a shapeshifter. She tells him that he is one too. Shapeshifters awaken at 18, and she believes he will awaken that night. She then tells him to keep it a secret from his father. The scene shifts back to the present. His parents ask what gift he wants. He says he doesn't want anything. His mother insists, warning him not to regret it. He replies that he's already grateful to them for giving birth to him. His parents laugh, and his mother compliments how prettily their son speaks, just like his father. The father credits the boy's good personality like his mother's. They agree it's a bit of both. Watching them, the boy feels happy, thinking how special his parents are, an immortal father and a shapeshifter mother. But he also wonders why they're hiding their identities from each other. Later that night, he tells his parents to sleep well. They return the wish, and he heads to his room, lying comfortably on his bed. Checking the time, he notes it's almost 11 p.m., the time his father said his immortal powers would awaken. He recalls the conversation on the way home and asks his father if awakening hurts. His father had said it felt like his blood warmed and cooled and that his senses sharpened. The son had asked again if it hurt, and his father assured it didn't. But the boy remembers his own awakening as a shapeshifter, and it felt like he was dying. He then wonders if he will really awaken, considering his mom is just a human. His father had said that immortal blood is stronger. As he tried to ask something else, he dropped it, thinking it didn't matter. The son hadn't fully understood what that meant. Back in the present, lying in bed, he wonders if it's possible to awaken as an immortal when he's already a shapeshifter. He worries about what to tell his father if he doesn't awaken. Deciding not to overthink, he tries to sleep. Soon he gets out of bed, trembling and deeply troubled. In his mind, he recalls how the world once had no invaders or black holes. No one knew about metahumans or immortals. It was a normal world. But his life was turning into something abnormal. As intense pain hits him, he thinks of his father and remembers what he said, that awakening didn't hurt. But for him, it was different. The pain was real. 2 years ago, the main character stood shirtless, marveling at the power surging through his body. He was amazed at how awakening alone had transformed his muscles. Just then, his mother entered the room, startling him. Embarrassed, he quickly covered himself and scolded her for not knocking. She laughed gently, saying she only came to check on him, and commented on how fine he looked. She asked him how it felt to be a shapeshifter now. He admitted he felt more energetic, with heightened senses like hearing and smell, but he was upset, asking her why she never warned him about the pain of awakening, losing all his hair, vomiting blood repeatedly, and feeling his muscles tear apart. His mother calmly responded that telling him wouldn't have made a difference. Still, he said he would have at least prepared himself mentally. He confirmed with her that the awakening was fully complete and that there weren't more stages. She reassured him there weren't. This wasn't a game. Relieved, he said he never wanted to go through such pain again. Back in the present, Wang reflected on the pain he had endured that night. The next morning, he tugged at his cheeks and looked at himself in the mirror. Despite being an immortal now, the pain still lingered. His appearance hadn't changed much, but his senses had become sharper, especially his vision in the dark. Suddenly, an overwhelming sound from outside his room caused his head to spin. He realized his hearing had become extremely sensitive. Trying to calm himself, he remembered how he had controlled his body during his shapeshifter days. Focusing his thoughts to push the noise away, the sound gradually faded. He felt more in control and finally accepted that he had awakened as an immortal. Still, he wondered if he could hide these changes well. His mother called out for him to come eat. Responding, he joined the table and was surprised by the breakfast spread. He felt lucky. His mother offered to make more if needed. Wang observed how much his family ate, remembering that shapeshifters required more energy. But his father also ate a lot. He wondered if special species naturally had bigger appetites. His father commented that the food was less than usual and asked if everything was alright. His mother explained more rice was cooking. Wang noticed that despite everything, his parents never seemed to suspect or argue with each other. Then his father told him to prepare for the civil service exams. Wang was surprised. His mother questioned this sudden decision and insisted he should go to college since he was 20. His father argued that skills mattered more than college and his civil service job was respectable. He was one himself. Though not against it, his mother was concerned about Wang ending up in a small, cramped gashuan so soon. The father assured her it wasn't necessary as Wang was smart. Wang watched their rare disagreement unfold. He figured his father wanted him in government roles common for immortals, while his mother likely had another plan. A memory resurfaced of training with his mom at the gym. He had improved drastically, doing 15 chin-ups without breaking a sweat. His mother explained that shapeshifters had triple the strength of normal people, but it was also due to regular training. She added that shapeshifters were also stronger in instinct. Though he didn't feel it at the time, she warned there would be moments when instincts would overpower him in the real world. She stressed the importance of training to control those instincts and expressed her wish for him to attend college and join a company. She revealed that his grandfather had connections in an industry that worked with shapeshifters and college would grant him basic shapeshifter training. Back in the present, his mother suggested they ask Wang what he wanted instead of deciding among themselves. Wang, eating quietly, grew anxious. His father turned to him and asked what he wanted to do. Wang realized he had never shared his true desire. He responded that he wanted to go to UGT. Both parents were shocked. His mother got angry, wondering why he chose a regular military path with his abilities. His father stayed silent, thinking deeply. Controlling her frustration, the mother said Guang hadn't fully thought it through, but Guang insisted that at 20 he could think for himself. His mom, now furious, tried to stay calm but told him he must be out of his mind. Seeing this, his father stepped in, saying being a soldier wasn't bad. His mother was shocked. She asked if Guang was choosing it just for the looks. Guang admitted that was part of it. His father supported him, saying it made sense. No 20-year-old was fully ready to fight for their country yet. His mother worried about the risks of military life, but his father reassured her. Not all soldiers ended up in dangerous places like Somalia. After training an assignment, Wang could still live a good life. He had to serve in the military eventually anyway, so going as an officer would be better. Reluctantly, his mother agreed. While eating, Wang admired how persuasive his father was. He asked his mother if he could really do it. She replied that he could, but not right now. His father agreed, emphasizing college, or rather, civil service exam, came first. Wang jokingly wondered if his dad was sponsored by a prep company. His father continued, saying passing the exam would allow him to delay military entry, and if he didn't go, he could work in the defense industry. Being an officer might even be a bonus. Wang asked if that was really possible. His father confidently replied it was. Wang believed it might be, especially if his father was backing it. Deciding to take the exam, Wang noted it wasn't easy, but not impossible either. His father instructed him to keep weekends free and mentioned someone in Huizhong, Baiyangdi, who would tutor him intensively. Wang agreed but was surprised by the location. In the next scene, Wang was seen traveling by bus. He thought about someone he knew in Huizhong, a farm worker who refused to come to the city. Wang wondered just how skilled this tutor must be for him to travel all this way. Looking at his phone, Wang reflected that he never expected to take the civil service exam. His true goal remained UGT. He admitted to himself that he never really wanted to be a soldier. His dream was something bigger, connected to Earth's white hole. After the formation of the international government coalition, a gate had opened. While black holes were for exits, white holes were entrances, gateways to the invaders' world called the other side. That world was rich in unknown metals, plants, animals, and new resources. While Earth's black holes were now history, the fight for resources continued and shapeshifters were sent to the front lines due to their strength and abilities. His mother never wanted him in those battles, so he compromised. By becoming a soldier, he could fulfill both her wishes and his own. Elsewhere, another young man answered a phone call. He assured the caller, referred to as Sunbae, that he had received their son and understood his purpose. The exams were mentioned, and the caller was assured not to worry. The man firmly said he wouldn't go easy on him, even if he was Sunbae's son. He was determined to educate him well. The man's full face wasn't revealed yet. Guang and the mysterious young man stood face to face. The man looked at Guang and asked him what he was. In response, Guang calmly introduced himself as Yu Yeonho's son, Yu Wangik. But the man clarified that he wasn't asking for his name. He wanted to know how Guang, an immortal, had such a strong build. Guang explained it was likely due to his mixed blood. The man found that strange since immortals had thick blood, especially someone with a father like Yeonho. Mixing that with human blood should have been impossible. But Guang revealed that his mother's blood was thick as well, surprising the man who found Guang quite unique. Moving ahead, the man told Guang to follow him. When Guang asked where they were going, the man reminded him that he had come for tutoring. Realizing that, Guang followed him without hesitation. As they walked, Guang reflected silently that the place he had reached, following his father's instructions to prepare for the civil service exam, was deep in the countryside in a mountain near Huizum in Gyeonggi province. The man guiding him seemed to be his tutor. Observing him, Guang thought his clean and handsome face might be because he was an immortal. He asked if there was a temple nearby, but the man dismissed it. Confused, Guang wondered why they were heading into the mountain. Eventually, the man led him into a forest to an old wooden house surrounded by logs and several knives embedded in the ground with their blades exposed. The man told Guang to follow him. Seeing the bizarre setup, Guang wondered what exactly his father wanted him to learn. Soon after, holding a stick, the man asked Guang if he had awakened. Guang confirmed he had. The man then asked if he had tested it. Guang shared that he had tried cutting his wrist with a cutter knife, though there was a wound that healed quickly. The man then asked if Guang understood the concept behind healing injuries. Guang admitted he didn't. The man also confessed that he didn't know either. Guang was left confused, but the man quickly moved on. Drawing something in the dirt with his stick, he explained that even without knowing the deeper mechanics, they could understand the basics of healing. First was health. A healthy immortal had strong healing power. Second was sense. Greater sensitivity meant more pain, but also quicker recognition and better control over the body. Noticing injuries faster helped in managing them. Overall, training in health and sense would boost healing abilities. Guang acknowledged this, though he couldn't understand the drawing at all. The man then asked if Guang had any questions. Guang raised one. He couldn't understand why he had to run through the field of knives. The man explained that it was part of training his health and learning to control his immortal body. Guang protested that it made no sense. The man, irritated, asked why he talked so much and reminded him that he wanted to take the exam. Guang confirmed but wondered aloud when they would start studying. To that, the man replied that this was the studying. Guang countered that studying was usually done with pen and paper. The man clarified that Guang was applying for the Immortal Special Forces. That left Guang completely stunned. He had only heard that it was his civil service exam. The man explained that it was similar to joining the military. Guang, confused and overwhelmed, questioned in his mind why his father hadn't mentioned anything about UDT. The man then challenged him, either do it or leave. Guang, realizing he could only live life on his own terms after passing, agreed to continue. Just then, the man handed him a pair of pants and told him to change and remove his shoes if he didn't want to ruin his clothes. Guang changed into the pants and reflected that nothing much had changed. Just the exam was not what he had expected. The man positioned Guang in front of the embedded knives and shouted at him to run. Guang hesitated but stepped forward. As he ran, his feet got cut, causing him immense pain and bleeding. He screamed from the agony, while the man sat calmly, sipping tea. Exhausted, Guang stopped for a moment, but the man yelled at him not to rest, reminding him that an enemy wouldn't stop chasing. Guang kept moving, screaming in pain. Eventually, the pain became unbearable, and Guang begged the man to just kill him. His feet were soaked in blood and covered in deep cuts. From those wounds, a strange aura began to emerge. The man noticed it and remarked that Guang had good reflexes since he had dodged some blades. Others couldn't manage that. He then praised Guang's healing ability, noting that regeneration speed improved with each injury. He ordered Guang to stop avoiding the blades and to step on them harder, even enough to sever his leg. Furious, Guang cursed the man in his thoughts. The man told him to stop overreacting and to keep running. Guang resumed, leaving the man to wonder just what kind of person he was. Soon, Guang collapsed to the ground, unable to continue. The man reminded him that he was immortal and wouldn't die from something like this. He needed to get up and run again. Guang, frustrated, asked how much longer he had to endure this. The man explained that the blades were meant to prepare him for shock during battle, like fear or concussions. But he was puzzled that Guang hadn't experienced any shock so far. When asked if it hurt, Guang screamed that it hurt like hell. Wang steadied himself and reflected that before becoming immortal, he had been a shapeshifter, and shapeshifters had incredibly strong bodies. Because of that, you wouldn't be shocked by something like this, no matter how long it went on. He asked if there was another way to pass the training. The man asked how fast he could run 50 meters. Wang said around 6 seconds. The man told him if he could cross the knife field within that time, he'd pass the training. Wang stood up and confirmed the time. The man agreed. Determined, Wang warned the man not to go back on his word. In his thoughts, he acknowledged that he could run 50 meters in 6 seconds at a moderate pace, but if he blocked his senses and ran at full speed, it would be easy. He sprinted through the field, pushing past the pain. The man was visibly surprised at his speed. Wang finished the run and confirmed in his mind that he had made it within the time. He relaxed, relieved. The man laughed while watching him, thinking how interesting Wang was. Suddenly, the man shouted at Wang to run again. Shocked, Wang asked why. The man casually admitted he hadn't timed the run. Wang was left irritated. After some time, the man announced that they would begin the second training. He handed Wang a dog collar. Wang, holding it, asked what it was. The man told him it was necessary for the next phase, ref-holding training. Wang was horrified, trembling at the realization. The man confirmed that when he pressed the button, the collar would strangle him. Wang hadn't even fully worn the collar when the man scolded him to tie it properly. The man reminded him that after surviving the field of knives, he wasn't about to quit now. Wang pleaded if he could just go underwater to train breath-holding. The man dismissed the idea. This training was about enduring strangulation. If he passed out in battle, it could mean death. The man explained that just like the blade setup, this was to help prevent fainting. After a brutal war against special species, humans had learned to fight them, and immortals needed to learn the same. He mentioned how they used to train by hanging themselves from trees, saying the world had improved. Wang disagreed internally, thinking that wasn't improvement at all. He asked what the conditions to pass were. The man told him there were none. He would pass out, but he had to endure for at least 5 minutes. Wang braced himself and wore the collar, agreeing to the time. The man warned him not to try removing it by force or stealing the remote unless he wanted a hole in his chest. Wang understood. The man then asked if he was ready. Wang said yes. With that, the man began to press the button. Wang struggled to breathe, barely managing to stay conscious as he tried to suppress the overwhelming pain. The agony became so intense that he instinctively reached for the collar around his neck, attempting to remove it. But before he could, the man ordered him to stop and began hitting him with a stick. Coldly observing Wang's condition, the man remarked that if Wang couldn't handle it, he should just pass out. In deep distress, Wang cursed internally, wondering when the ordeal would finally end. He was certain 5 minutes had already passed and felt his consciousness fading. Just as he was about to lose it, the collar automatically deactivated. Surprised, the man stared at the button and questioned why the device had turned off. Suspecting the battery might have died, he watched as the collar slipped off Wang's neck and hit the ground. Wang gasped for air, feeling like he had just escaped death. The man, however, calmly assured him he wouldn't die. Frustrated, Wang protested, insisting they weren't going to repeat the session just because he didn't pass out. He was confident more than 5 minutes had passed. The man confirmed it, exactly 12 minutes and 47 seconds. Wang recalled that the previous record was only 8 minutes and thought to himself that someone or something was to blame. Meanwhile, the man looked at Huang and smiled. Wang, annoyed, told him not to look at him like a child discovering a new toy. Later, the man informed Wang that training was over for the day and he needed to eat. Wang sarcastically asked if the man was going to feed him. The man explained that working while starving was inefficient and staying healthy was essential. When Wang offered to help, the man told him to just sit. Wang, admitting to himself that he didn't know how to cook anyway, decided to remain still. Soon, the man prepared a strange-looking soup and served it to Wang, telling him to eat. Wang was immediately disturbed by its appearance and asked what was in it. When the man offered to tell him, Wang quickly declined, saying he didn't really want to know. In the next scene, Wang was seen bathing in a river. Reflecting on the moment, he decided that next time, he would be the one cooking. He thought about learning from his mother once he returned home. But before that, he needed to ask his dad a few things. He wanted to call him immediately, but fatigue took over. Feeling exhausted, he simply muttered that he needed a good sleep. Back in the room, Wang noticed everything was pitch black. Calling out to his teacher, he asked about the lack of lights. The man explained that lights attract bugs and the darkness wasn't really bothersome. Wang accepted the answer but seemed slightly uneasy. He quietly lay down and tried to sleep. The man explained that this was training meant to kill the sense of touch, as a heightened sense made uncomfortable sensations feel worse. At first, it could even keep someone awake. But despite this, Wang had already fallen into a deep sleep. The next morning, the teacher woke Wang for breakfast. Once again, the man had made bird food and Wang, though troubled, forced to thank you. The teacher reminded him that immortals burn a lot of energy and needed to eat properly. Wang agreed and began eating. Curious about the day's training, Wang asked what they would be doing. The man told him it would be cliff diving. Wang sighed, realizing it was going to be another insane task. The man explained that the purpose was to learn how to hold one's breath midair and control senses before impact. Wang pieced together that the biggest threat to an immortal during battle was the shock and pressure from a strong impact that could knock them unconscious. The teacher agreed and added that losing leg mobility was dangerous, so arms acted as shields. He warned about attacks targeting the head or legs and noted that knives were more dangerous than guns and that claymores and mines were threats as well. Wang understood, though he found the examples outdated. As Wang picked at his food, the teacher scolded him to hurry up so they could begin training. Wang obediently resumed eating. The next scene showed Wang leaping from a high cliff, completing his training. Afterward, he took a bus back home the following day. On the bus, Wang called his father and asked if the place he trained at had really been the right one. His father, curious, asked why. Wang told him he had been made to dive off a mountain. His father, unfazed, reminded him that as an immortal, he wouldn't die easily. He explained that pushing the body to the limit was how one discovered its true potential. Wang reflected, feeling that all he had learned was how durable his body was. Praising him, his father told him to rest well. Wang then asked about the exam he would be taking. Before replying, his father was interrupted and abruptly hung up, revealing that the teacher's name was Shanbei. Still anxious after the call, Wang tried to stay positive. He told himself that nothing would change even if he found out now. He planned to follow his father's advice and rest for the day. When he reached home, he looked forward to a hot shower, playing 5 pounds, eating a delicious meal prepared by his mom, and sleeping for 12 uninterrupted hours in a mosquito-free room. It was his perfect rest plan. However, upon arriving, his mother told him to shower later. She wanted to take him somewhere. This sudden change frustrated Wang as all his rest plans crumbled instantly. She reminded him he should still be studying for college and revealed that she had packed his bag. Shocked, Wang insisted he could study on his own, until he realized she had mentioned a packed bag. His mother then informed him that she had found a nearby teacher. He would be staying there for 2 nights with room and board. Wang, now overwhelmed, sensed something was off. In the next scene, his mother dropped him off and prepared to leave. Wang asked why she wasn't even going to introduce him. They were supposed to meet the teacher, but she dismissed his concern, saying intelligence alone wasn't enough. He also needed a strong body. With that, she left him alone. Standing there in disbelief, Wang realized the truth. What lay ahead wasn't going to be peaceful college studying. Laughing bitterly, he accepted it. This was just the nature of his damned household. Wang took the lift and arrived on a new floor, surprised to discover a fully equipped gym there. He was stunned, wondering if they had really converted an underground parking lot into this space. Just then, a girl entered and recognized him immediately as Sulhei's son. Her sudden appearance left Wang even more confused. He confirmed his identity, admitting he had no idea why his mother sent him here. The girl mentioned that he had studied continuously for 2 days, warning that using only his brain without physical activity would harm his body. Wang, unsure how to respond, kept his thoughts to himself, feeling it was unfair that he couldn't speak the truth here either. He recalled how his mother had raised him with a strict philosophy. If he disobeyed, she would discipline him physically. She believed people should take full responsibility for their mistakes. After living under such values for 20 years, he had internalized them. Rebelling against his mother always resulted in harsh consequences. Back in the present, he accepted his fate, realizing resistance wouldn't work, not with this teacher. The girl handed him a smartwatch, instructing him to wear one on his wrist and ankle. Hesitant, Wang admitted he had trauma from receiving such devices. The girl calmly explained that it was just for tracking body measurements. He complied and put them on, asking if she was going to train him. She informed him there would be a test first. Pointing toward a treadmill, she told him to run. As he began running, she remarked that he never trained on his own and called him trash. Although his heart rate seemed fine and his body strong, she questioned if that was all he could do. Her comments angered Wang. He felt as if he was being bullied and noted how lazy she considered him, blaming it on the modern world's comfort. He wondered if they were around the same age, but quickly remembered that immortals and shapeshifters age slowly, meaning she could be older than she appeared. He asked how long he was supposed to keep running, but she simply ordered him to continue. Wang was shocked. She explained that cardio would be the first step, promising to rebuild his body from scratch. He responded dryly, stating he didn't want a second mother. The girl was slightly amused, commented that maybe it was because he was Sulhei's son and accused him of joking. Internally, Wang thought it hadn't been a joke at all. As night fell, Wang was still running. The girl taunted him, saying even her grandmother wouldn't be tired after such light work. Exhausted, Wang announced the time. 14 hours, 4 minutes and 30 seconds. He couldn't believe he had run all night without a break, noting that even immortal training allowed rest. The girl criticized his reliance on his natural body, saying that fighting without training was amateurish. She told him to watch and memorize the stretching routine they would do later. Wang was shocked by how flexible her body was. She emphasized the importance of flexibility, warning that stiffness was a disadvantage. Out of breath, Wang thought about where inflexibility could become a problem but lacked the energy to question it. Even with the shapeshifter's body, running for 14 straight hours had drained him. Still, he kept running and updated the time again. 14 hours, 10 minutes. He reminded himself to keep tracking time, memorize the video movements, and pay attention to her explanations. The training felt brutal, but he believed he could endure it. He remembered a past lesson from his senior, Xianbei, who had taught him about managing senses. The senior explained that while Wang was good at blocking senses, dulling too many could ruin his movement. He needed to focus on dulling one sense while sharpening another, an advanced form of multitasking. With this in mind, Wang pushed himself further. He ran, memorized the video, listened to the teacher, and kept time all at once. Though it felt like 4 separate tasks, he realized they didn't overlap completely. Running was physical, the video and teaching didn't happen together, and timing could be set aside. With this strategy, he managed to endure the full 24-hour run. At last, Wang stopped, panting heavily. He sighed with relief, thinking it was finally over. The girl checked her phone and saw he had completed exactly 24 hours and 1 second. She complimented his brain, then told him to loosen up and prepare for flexibility training. He responded with a simple okay. She asked if he remembered the video, then demonstrated the stretching positions. Wang watched her with awe, amazed by her flexibility. To him, it felt like cheating to move like that with a human body. She told him to try, and he agreed. He began stretching but couldn't do it properly. She warned him not to overdo it and explained that flexibility takes time. By repeating the same movements daily, the range of motion would increase slowly. She described it as slowly ripping the muscles to increase flexibility. Wang realized that with his immortal healing ability, he didn't need to take it slow. He just had to endure the pain. With that thought, he suddenly pushed himself to stretch rapidly. The girl was shocked to see him overexerting. His body stiffened painfully, and she rushed to check on him. He trembled but insisted he was okay. She scolded him for being disobedient and asked who taught him to act this way. Despite his condition, Wang pointed out that he had successfully done it. Surprised, the girl called him an interesting guy. A moment later, Wang asked for help getting up. Though she didn't want to, she had no choice but to assist him. Under a clear sky, the scene opens with a large pig being roasted. The girl tells Guang that their training for the day is over and it's time to eat. Guang, surprised, asks if they're really going to eat an entire pig. She confidently claims one whole pig for herself and points at another, saying that one's for him. Staring at the massive roasted meat, Guang wonders how it makes sense to have an entire pig per person. Their trainer, wearing gloves, steps in, stating that eating is also a part of their training. She reminds them to get used to consuming enough energy to keep moving later. Wang can't believe it and compares it to hibernating like a bear. Both of them start eating. Their trainer tells him not to clean up afterward, just stack everything because 2 days a week isn't enough to grasp even the basics. Wang agrees while devouring the meat, internally realizing that it tastes amazing. Maybe it's because he hadn't eaten all day. It's simply seasoned roast pork, but to him, it feels like a feast. The trainer firmly instructs them to finish every bite or else face death. Wang replies that he was raised never to leave food behind. Once he finishes eating, the trainer walks away, telling him to wash up and sleep after his meal. Wang follows her instruction, cleans up, and then sits quietly. He reflects that it's much better than sleeping in a mosquito-filled forest. Also, unlike his stick-wielding trainer, here he's allowed to use his phone. He wonders if he should call his mom. He dials her number, and she answers with concern, asking if he's okay. This surprises Guang. He didn't expect her to worry after sending him here. He tells her that he's definitely not okay. His mom responds, saying she told the trainer several times not to go easy on him, but still worries. Wang, confused, listens as she continues, advising him to tell the trainer to be harsher if she's being too soft. She then adds that his father is there and that she's busy now. Shocked, Wang questions her priorities, asking what happened to worrying about her son. As the second day of training passes, Wang reflects on the differences between the two systems. If the Immortals' training feels like psychotic torture, then the Shapeshifter's training is rooted in ignorant intensity. The trainer challenges Guang with heavy dumbbells. He struggles, claiming he'll kill him, but she motivates him to push through. She asks how much weight he can lift and what his personal records are. She explains that knowing and breaking limits is the foundation of their training, and their regimen incorporates science through devices and electronic tools. The Immortal training also involved equipment that nearly strangled him. She then lifts a weight herself and tells him to lift the same. Wang notices it's 60 kilograms in total minus 20 kilograms on each side and the bar. Confident in his shapeshifter strength, which is 3 times that of a normal adult, he lifts it with ease. She instructs him to carry it and follow her. While running, she orders him to keep up. Confused, Guang asks if she means to run while holding it. He then spots a narrow cardboard track ahead and realizes this is another wild setup, like the blade course earlier. She tells him to focus on balance, keep his center aligned, and rely on reflexes. When Guang asks if that really works, she simply says to keep doing it until it does. Looking down at the narrow path, he notices it's barely half the width of his foot and stretches out long. He wonders if it's okay to fall. The trainer checks something on her tablet and casually mentions that the risk of injury from a 3-meter fall is low. However, she reminds him not to anticipate falling. Shapeshifters don't recover as easily as immortals, so preserving the body is top priority. Curious, Wang wonders what she's watching, perhaps his results. She then emphasizes again that injuries are a serious disadvantage on the battlefield. He decides to just get it over with. The stick teacher watching Netflix behind him had advised him to protect his body, but as an immortal, he'll heal fast, even from broken bones. So he braces himself, ready to fall if needed. As he steps onto the narrow board, his foot naturally pauses. His enhanced senses activate, particularly his heightened touch, which helps him feel pressure through his shoes and stabilize himself. Though shapeshifters usually have great reflexes, they can't match the sensory precision of immortals. He finds balance, feels confident, and even enjoys the task, appreciating that at least there are no blades this time. He makes it across successfully. The trainer immediately instructs him to do it 2 more times back and forth. Wang agrees. She notes to herself that the board is just 4 centimeters wide and 50 centimeters long, and he didn't tilt even once. Wang looks ahead and sees something even more intense, a wire. He realizes the next level is even tougher. He asks if he really has to run across it. She confirms it. This is the actual test called the single line setup. The wooden board was just preparation. Despite his outward appearance, she acknowledges that he has excellent balance and strong natural abilities. Seeing a mattress beneath the wire, Wang questions its purpose. She explains that it won't break his fall much, so if he slips, he should just fall straight. Grabbing the wire would only tear his skin. When he asks if he has to carry weights again, she tells him to start with just his body. Wang accepts it, thinking once he masters starting, the real challenge will come with carrying the bar. He's not afraid. Compared to immortal training, this is light work. But in terms of complexity, it's hellish. Still, the wire doesn't shake much, there's no storm, and the fall isn't deadly. There's even a mattress. Nothing about this setup truly scares him. So he takes a deep breath and steps forward. He starts slowly but soon accelerates. At first, he struggles to maintain balance, almost falling. He considers slowing down but then finds a rhythm, bouncy, light footsteps. Watching him, the trainer smiles, entertained. Wang continues, thinking back to how the stick teacher found him more interesting than the video she was watching. She made him run the single line all day, this time while holding the bar. The next morning arrives and it's time for Wang to return home. As he leaves, the trainer tells him she'll see him next week. He agrees. In the car, his mother drives him home. She brings up the training and asks if he wonders why she's making him do all this. He says, of course. She explains that she can't stand seeing him get beaten up. Wang is confused, but she continues, saying he needs to know how to use his body properly. Right now, he's just too weak. Shocked, Wang thinks to himself that if his friends heard this, they faint. His nickname is One Punch Man at Jasel High School. Accepting the challenge, he decides that he'll train harder. If he ends up joining the UDT, he wants to be useful and not a burden. Although the immortal special forces mentioned by the stick teacher sound intimidating, he still believes he can make it. Once home, he eats a massive meal and thanks his mom. She jokes, asking if he's starved for several days. Wang, touched, tells her that he realized how special her cooking is. He then tells her he wants to learn how to cook. Surprised, she asks if he's serious. He explains that cooking is trendy for men now, and he wants to impress his future wife. She finds the idea amusing but reminds him that he still needs to be sexy for the title to fit. With his current shape, he might end up a pig male cook. Wang laughs and tells her to stop depending on his shapeshifter physique and to manage his diet better. But he insists cooking first. He recalls a dish from I'm a Naturman that made the stick teacher's eyes sparkle. His mom finally agrees to teach him, and he lights up with excitement. The food issue is resolved. But as for the training, that's another story. He wonders what kind of training awaits him next week. Will it be the same or something even tougher? The scene cuts to Xianbei meticulously cleaning his blades and checking their sharpness, grinning with a creepy smile, hinting at what's to come. Guang was seen falling from above, his body soaked in blood. He recalled how, after a 4-day break, the stick teacher had declared that the previous training was just the basic phase, separate from the actual entry requirements. From now on, blade setup, feint endurance, and cliff diving were all mandatory courses. Wang had completed his final course by throwing himself off a cliff. Despite the pain, he found this course easier than the wild shapeshifter training because it ended quicker. However, the troubling part was that this was only the beginning of basic training. Just then, Xianbei called out, asking Wang to climb up if he was done. He explained that one of the perks of immortality was regeneration. Getting shot by a gun wasn't much of a problem, as the bullet either passed through or was pushed out and the body would regenerate. But weapons that didn't use firepower, like blades, were more troublesome. Amputated limbs took longer to regenerate. That's why it was important to be careful. Wang understood and replied accordingly. Xianbei elaborated that while it was acceptable to take damage in less critical areas, certain attacks had to be completely avoided. Watching Xianbei, Wang felt slightly intimidated, thinking to himself that Xianbei swung his blade like a murderer. Nervously, Wang tried to confirm the reason for pulling out a blade, to which Xianbei challenged him to figure it out on his own. Wang realized that this was a continuation of the blade setup training, and the objective wasn't just avoiding the blade, but learning to deflect or take it properly. In the next sequence, Xianbei attacked Wang again. Wang successfully dodged the first and second strikes and managed to retreat during the third. Xianbei explained that the goal was to avoid major injuries while accepting minor ones. There was no point in dodging everything. He observed that Wang was quite athletic and decided to start off easy. Wang was confused. How could he not avoid the attacks? Before he could figure it out, Xianbei slashed his chest, leaving a deep cut. He then explained that if he went for Wang's thigh or calf, he should block with his shin or deflect the attack. With that, he inflicted more cuts on Wang's leg and hand. The pain was intense, and Wang thought to himself that it felt like getting hit by a blade no matter what. Thankfully, his previous blade setup training was helping. All the cuts began to heal quickly, astonishing Wang. Xianbei acknowledged his quick regeneration and continued the assault. Soon, Wang collapsed from the injuries. Blood flowed from his body, but his wounds slowly healed. Xianbei pointed out that anemia was a weakness of immortality. When Wang asked if they carried blood packets for transfusion, Xianbei confirmed, saying it was better to stop bleeding in advance. Wang was surprised to learn they actually did that. Xianbei suggested taking a break to eat. Wang offered to cook and was asked if it would be instant ramen. He declined and instead prepared a dish using his mother's recipe. It was Wang X's meat sauce spaghetti. His mother had once written in a note that adding a lot of sauce could make food tastier. Xianbei tasted the dish and smiled, admitting it was good. Wang joked that at least Xianbei's taste buds were normal. When Xianbei asked for clarification, Wang explained that since immortals had enhanced senses, it was nice to see he could still enjoy food. Xianbei mentioned that cooking was a form of training too. Shocked, Wang asked if that really counted as training. Xianbei clarified that it helped dull the sense of taste. As they finished eating, Xianbei suddenly announced they would add one more training segment. Wang, confused, asked what he meant. Xianbei explained that since Wang was used to taking blade hits on his arms, it was time to advance. Without warning, he stabbed Wang in the stomach, initiating organ regeneration training. The sudden stab left Wang stunned and in pain. Slowly, his organs began to heal. Xianbei advised him to hold on as organ regeneration took longer and strength training was necessary in the meantime. Wang, trembling from the pain, realized there had been no signal before the attack. He asked how Xianbei had done it. Xianbei explained it was about hiding one's energy to avoid detection by sensitive opponents. Before Xianbei could elaborate, Wang angrily shouted, saying he should have at least been warned. Xianbei casually remarked that he could hear him and noted that Wang was almost healed. Wang asked if the stab was just to trigger regeneration, and Xianbei confirmed, then asked if he wanted to learn how to hide his energy. Still recovering, Wang agreed. 2 days later, Wang arrived at the gym for another round of training. He greeted his teacher, a female trainer, who immediately aimed a gun at him. Wang asked if this was some kind of survival game. She replied it was something similar and fired a shot that narrowly missed him. Wang was terrified. She explained the gun was modified with gas and special bullets and instructed him to dodge. Wang started running as she kept firing. She shouted that guns were dangerous and could cause serious damage. He needed to move while she aimed, find cover, or run fast enough to prevent accurate targeting. As Wang ran, she told him not to run in a straight line but in zigzags to keep his movements unpredictable. If caught in a reverse action, he should strengthen his muscles and shift direction using body tension. Some bullets grazed Wang's arm, causing sharp pain. The trainer emphasized that even one hit could make him helpless. If he got to take a hit, it should be in a non-critical spot. While continuing his training, Wang realized that both immortals and shapeshifters had survival-based fighting styles suited to their traits. Neither taught how to fight, but how to survive. Immortals had to be cautious of large blade weapons, while shotguns posed more danger than rifles. For shapeshifters, blades were manageable due to their speed and reflexes. Shotguns, despite their wide range, became useless once close to them. They relied on avoiding injury entirely as they couldn't regenerate. After intense training, the area was littered with bullet marks and debris. The trainer declared the session over. Wang asked how they cleaned the place, and she instructed him to climb up and run across the wire. Wang reluctantly agreed. Picking up the fumbles, he thought physical training was still better than getting injured repeatedly. Suddenly, he sensed something strange like a lethal attack approaching from behind. He dodged instantly and turned around to see the trainer standing there. Surprised, she remarked that he had sensed it. Wang was left stunned as the lady trainer unleashed her terrifying aura. In a voice filled with shock, he reacted to the intense sensation that had just passed through him. The lady trainer calmly explained that what he had just experienced was known as the wild bloodthirst, and acknowledged that Wang had been able to sense it. Still shaken, Wang warned her not to do that again. It felt like his heart was about to explode, and he clearly didn't enjoy the sensation. The lady trainer reassured him that it would become manageable over time. Once someone gets used to it, or has something similar within them, it becomes easier. She instructed him to keep training. Wang, still surprised, reflected on the training ahead. The shapeshifter hell training had begun. Strangely, within 2 days, he had stopped collapsing while running across the wire. He figured out how to endure the trainer's overwhelming presence. Her bloodthirst was relentless. Thanks to his heightened immortal senses, he learned to perceive bloodthirst with all 5 senses and then counter it using his 6th. He discovered that by flexing his lower stomach and holding his breath, the sensation became bearable. With this new control, Wang resumed walking across the thin cardboard path while carrying dumbbells. This time, he moved steadily without losing his balance. Watching his improvement, the lady trainer was visibly surprised. She acknowledged that aside from organ regeneration, she had trained him with axes, spears, arrows, and even traps, especially because traps demanded extra caution. In the following scenes, Wang continued his training with Xianbei. He shared how his lessons alternated between shapeshifter and immortal training. The immortal training, however, remained akin to torture. Xianbei explained that continuous pain could severely affect mental clarity, as it made it harder for the brain to function. Wang asked if constant pain was more dangerous than sudden injuries, to which Xianbei replied that immortals often fought while taking physical damage. That's why enduring pain was essential. It clouded logical thinking. To adapt, Wang had to consume poison. His shapeshifter training wasn't much easier. It began with weighted belts and vests. Sandbags were tied to his wrists and ankles. He practiced dodging bullets, walking the wire, and building strength with dumbbells. Despite the intensity, there were changes. In the middle of his training, his father went on a 10-day business trip. Later at home, Wang saw his mom and dad together. His mom asked what she should do if she missed him during the trip, and his dad assured her they FaceTime every day. Hearing this, Wang found it amusing. They were acting like he'd be gone for years. Back in training, Wang resumed working with Xianbei. Besides being pierced by countless weapons, Stick Teacher also taught him how to wield conventional arms and martial arts. Xianbei confidently stated that Wang would quickly learn to use a gun. Wang confirmed this, noting that despite the difficulties, he was able to learn fast, likely due to his shapeshifter physique and quick reflexes. He trained next with Log Teacher, who gave him a new gun for practice. She acknowledged that while martial arts could be self-taught through videos, shooting required one's senses and was far harder. Wang noted her comment, but for him, things were different. Being a mixed blood with immortal enhanced senses made the process surprisingly easy. 2 months passed swiftly. After completing his training, Wang returned home late at night. His father asked if he'd been at the gym, and Wang confirmed. Privately, he reflected on how strange it felt to take a break after such intense training. His body was already itching to resume. He wondered if he had developed a desire for pain. His father then complimented his strength, surprised that someone like him, his own son, could be so capable. His mother found it to be a good thing, and the father remarked that Wang must have taken after her. She responded that Wang was smart like his dad. Watching them, Wang thought about how their relationship had always been strong, but he wondered why he didn't have a younger sibling. While freshening up in the bathroom, he looked at himself in the mirror and wondered why he still didn't have a girlfriend. He didn't think his standards were too high. He wasn't looking for someone as perfect as his mother, just someone cute, mature, and attractive. Good at cooking would be a bonus. Shared hobbies would be nice. And someone who looked good in jeans, smart, and confident about what she wanted. Meanwhile, his mom received a call and informed his dad that she was going to visit Hyman's mom. His dad was surprised she was going out so late, but she explained that Hyman's child was a high school senior and probably under stress. The dad agreed it was a tough phase. After she left, the dad checked his phone. Wang returned from the bathroom, calling out for a hairdryer. His mom replied that neither of them were home. He then checked his phone and found a message from the lady trainer. Reading it, he realized that the test was scheduled for tomorrow. It hadn't been long since his last major exam, but this one felt different. He reflected on how his friends had questioned his decision not to attend university after the CSAT. They had reacted with surprise and mockery. But Wang never intended to go to college. His path had already been set 9 years ago. That was the day the massive black hole, Hughesgate, had opened. He had been trapped under rubble. Watching a man fight off endless invaders, he had made his decision to become like him. His mother would be disappointed if she knew. She had always wanted him to live a normal life, especially since the day he awakened. Elsewhere, Wang's mother was seen looking for someone. She mumbled to herself, wondering where the person had gone. Soon, she encountered the lady trainer, who asked what excuse she had used to leave home. Wang's mom explained that she had said she was visiting a nearby student's mother. The trainer asked if she was curious about her own son. She pointed out that Wang's mother hadn't asked once about how he was doing. Wang's mom admitted that she just wanted him to do decently well for a half-blood. She didn't ask because she was anxious. A human shapeshifter mix usually lacks half the capabilities of a normal shapeshifter. Meanwhile, Wang's dad was on a call with Xianbei. Xianbei was shocked by something and questioned him sternly. The dad responded with a threat, clearly agitated. Xianbei asked if he genuinely didn't know and then revealed the truth. Wang was an irregular. The dad was stunned by the word. Back with the ladies, the trainer remarked that Wang didn't need to be exceptional. His mother just wanted him to be capable of defending himself against threats like mad scientist groups. The trainer mentioned a past incident involving such a group. They had tried to combine powers from different special species to create something superior to purebloods. What they produced were grotesque monsters with powers from both parents. The conclusion was clear: mixing human blood with special species weakened the offspring. As she sipped tea, the trainer told Wang's mom that she had gotten lucky. The mom asked why, and the trainer replied because she had hit the jackpot with her son. Back on the call, Wang's dad asked Xianbei if being an irregular meant Wang was weaker than a quarter blood. He assumed that his strong bloodline would ensure Wang met at least half the standard. But Xianbei clarified that it was the opposite. Wang was talented, a genius unlike any he'd ever seen. He even taught him how to conceal his energy. The dad, still in disbelief, confirmed that he had. Meanwhile, the lady trainer told Wang's mom that while Wang's physical capabilities were excellent, there was something more. When the mom asked what that was, the trainer replied, his brain. He had an excellent mind. Annoyed by the slang, Wang's mom told her not to use such terms. The trainer rephrased, he was smart and talented. He had even mastered wild bloodthirst. This left the mother stunned. On the other side, Wang's father warned Xianbei that if he was lying to make him feel better, he'd bury him for 2 weeks. Wang's mother, too, said she'd be furious if this was a joke. Both Xianbei and the lady trainer confirmed it. They weren't lying. Wang was genuinely gifted, a genius. Hearing this, both his parents smiled with pride and said in unison, as expected of their son. Wang woke up and greeted his mother with a warm good morning, asking about his father's whereabouts. His mother replied that his father had left early for work, then reminded Wang to wash up and eat. As he looked at the meal prepared for him, Wang's face lit up with joy. He wondered if today was a special day. His mother confirmed it, saying that today was indeed important, the day of the civil service exam. Realizing this, Wang tensed up. He knew that his training so far had focused more on survival than on intellectual skills. After finishing his breakfast, Wang thanked his mother for the meal. She asked if he was ready, and he confidently responded that he had studied so much. The material appeared even in his dreams. But deep inside, he recalled disturbing dreams of his foot getting severed and his organs being stabbed. His mother reminded him that his father would be disappointed if he failed. This left Wang confused, and he thought to himself that although his mother didn't want him to be a public servant, she also didn't want him to fail. She wanted to support him, but was clearly worried about the shapeshifter side of him. Still, Wang reassured her not to worry, reminding himself of his immortal nature. His mother, in a stern voice, warned that if he failed, they'd settle it in a boxing ring. Wang got slightly nervous at the thought and admitted that was a bit much. He then found himself thinking about something he didn't want to consider. She gave him a final push. If he didn't want to fight, he simply had to pass. With resolve, Wang promised he would. As he stepped out of his room, he reflected that music was best when one was tensed. He became more aware, thinking about how his immortal senses sharpen everything. While waiting for the elevator, he began singing to himself. Just then, a girl named Hyman spotted him and teased him about his singing. She told him he didn't need to sing since his face was already attractive enough. Embarrassed, Wang asked why that mattered to her. Hyman boldly asked if he was going to ask her out. Wang replied that he wasn't. When she asked why, he reminded her he had mentioned his ideal type many times. Playfully placing her hand on his, Hyman pointed out that a girl like her, pretty smart, and with a good body, was rare. At that moment, the elevator arrived and Wang quickly pulled his hand away, warning her not to say such things in public. He mentioned the dangers of today's world and asked if she really wanted to end up in handcuffs. He questioned her claim of being smart, adding that she lacked a conscience. Even after leaving the apartment, Hyman chased after him, yelling at him to wait. Wang told her not to follow him. Curious, she asked where he was headed. He replied that he was going for the civil service exam. Surprised, Hyman mentioned Eduil, impressed by their advertisements. Wang confirmed that and urged her to go to class. She reminded him that she was a senior in high school and would be heading to college next year. Wang congratulated her and warned her not to waste her future on alcohol once she got her ID. Hyman pointed out that he was only a year older than her. Wang asked if she could feel the age gap. She clarified that wasn't her point and explained that she didn't want to attend an all-girls college. She wanted to attract guys next year. Wang advised her to focus on studying, saying her mother was already worried about her. As Wang started walking away, Hyman shouted that since they were dating, he should help her study. She called him a smart boyfriend, useful for such things. Wang replied that he didn't know who her boyfriend was, feeling sorry for the poor guy ruining his life. Annoyed by his attitude, Hyman showed him the middle finger. Wang noted that Ms. High Kick hadn't changed even after becoming a senior. Later, Wang arrived somewhere by bus. Looking at the time, 7:50. He thought he was a bit early for the 9 a.m. exam but wasn't sure where to go. He greeted 2 women standing nearby. One responded cheerfully, asking what brought him there, while the other mentioned hearing about a special exam taking place that day. Just then, a man approached Wang and asked if he was an examinee. Wang said yes. The man stared at him for a while before requesting his testing documents. Feeling judged, Wang wondered why the man was looking at him like he was a fraud. After checking the documents, the man handed them back and confirmed Wang's identity. "You Wangnik," then instructed him to take the elevator to the 9th floor. Reaching the 9th floor, Wang questioned internally if this was really the place. A woman nearby approached him and asked if he was an examinee. When Guan confirmed, she asked for his documents. After examining them thoroughly, she confirmed and directed him to enter the last room. Wang, annoyed by the process, wondered if all immortal exams were like this. As he neared the room, Wang noticed how soundproof it seemed. He suspected that blood and chaos would erupt inside, yet it was located right in the heart of Uedo. He thought about the old force and the power of the world government. Bracing himself, he reminded his body to stay tense. He considered the possibility of being attacked the moment he opened the door. Dodging a blade might be the actual test to get in. What he did know for sure was that the training he endured had been terrifying. Opening the door, he found the room filled with benches and desks. A bald man greeted him, saying he was the earliest to arrive. Seeing him, Wang was shocked to notice the man had no hair. As the man worked, he asked Wang for his documents. Wang's thoughts drifted again. He recalled how anti-hair loss medicine had once been developed with materials from the Whitehall. Even cheaper options existed, though with side effects. That meant this man must be bald by choice, a fashion statement. The man glanced up again and confirmed if Wang was an examinee. Nervously, Wang handed over his documents and ID, wondering why there were so many checks. He thought his good looks should have been enough to verify his identity. The bald man assigned him number 48 and pointed out his seat. Guan sat down, surprised by the setup. It was not the kind of test he had imagined. There were desks and chairs, something never seen during his training. But he reminded himself that anything could happen once the exam started. He suspected the bald man might suddenly attack him with a knife. Determined to stay on guard till the very end, Wang reassured himself that being mentally prepared would prevent him from being caught off guard. Soon, the classroom filled with other examinees. Wang, too, waited among them. A caption introduced him, Yu Wangik, 20 years old, currently facing the biggest surprise of his life. A teacher entered and began instructing the class. Wang, overwhelmed with anxiety, found it hard to focus. The teacher asked if anyone forgot their testing pen. Wang felt something was off and didn't pay attention. Noticing Wang's lack of focus, the teacher got visibly irritated. Wang raised his hand, blurting out confused thoughts. At that moment, the screen revealed that Yu Wangik sensed something was wrong, but couldn't find the words to express it. Guang sat quietly in class, looking deeply anxious. Thoughts about the exam flooded his mind. He remembered how he had suddenly started preparing, throwing himself into tutoring that felt like endless suffering. Still, he gave it his all just to pass. But things didn't start off well. He had arrived first and spent 50 minutes staring into space, overwhelmed. The teacher soon announced that the test would begin in 10 minutes and asked if anyone needed a test-purpose pen. Wang's hope crumbled. He borrowed a pen from the teacher and looked at it, realizing that this really was a written test. As he glanced around the room, he noted the serious testing atmosphere. He wondered what the others were studying and hesitated at the thought of asking them. One by one, he looked at the other students and noticed how everyone had above-average looks. Some could even be idols. His gaze landed on one particular student, strikingly attractive. Even his hands looked like they belonged in a commercial. A strange light seemed to shine behind him. That student glanced at Guan, then turned away with attitude, leaving Guan confused and hoping there was no misunderstanding. Just then, two teachers approached and set up barriers around Guan's desk. They moved around, placing partitions between all students to prevent cheating. The teacher then announced that they would now distribute the test papers. Wang observed the large spacing between desks and wondered if it was to accommodate immortals with heightened senses. He received his test paper and thought that in any other test, someone arriving late would have been disqualified. But this immortal test seemed more relaxed, yet he quickly took that thought back. As he read through the questions, he became more distressed. He wished he could do blade runs instead of answering written problems. But then something caught his attention. One of the questions seemed simpler than expected. It asked about handling a puncture wound, and he instinctively knew the answer: apply pressure first. He remembered his teacher instructing him during enro training, emphasizing the need to stop the bleeding and avoid shock. Recalling that training, he understood that running through blades had taught him everything. A small wound wasn't fatal for immortals if bleeding was controlled. The next question asked about blood loss and shock. He found it strange. He'd never gone into shock before, but had been scolded for that. A memory resurfaced. His teacher once chased him with a blade, yelling at him for not going into shock despite repeated stabs. Wang had been terrified and begged to know how much more pain he'd be put through. Back in the present, he remembered the teacher saying that although he was immortal, he was otherwise like a regular human. That helped him decide the right answer. He kept progressing. One question asked what to do when unable to avoid a blade. The answer was to sacrifice an arm and prioritize mobility. Another question was about poison. That one was easier. He already knew a lot about it. He realized that the test was assessing how much an immortal had used their body and how much they had learned from experience. Wang had trained through hell and everything. His grueling lessons, the common sense drilled into him, was now helping him answer the test. Training for him had been a form of studying. Then he turned to the last question on the back, a written response, how to kill an immortal. The answer to him seemed obvious. Looking around, he wondered how much time had passed. A teacher glanced at him and noted mentally that he still had an hour left. They wondered if he had already given up. The teacher then informed everyone that those who finished could leave by flipping their papers. Wang stood up to leave. As he moved toward the exit, he saw the same woman who had earlier asked for his documents. Recognizing her as the bob-haired Nuna from the entrance, he noted her presence. She asked him if he had read the agreement details on the test papers. He confirmed. Then, showing him a tablet, she told him it was for the agreement. As he looked at it, he realized that breaking the agreement would lead to arrest by the old force, no matter his immortal status. The conditions felt intimidating, but he agreed. She asked if he was mixed blood, and he admitted it, a mix of shapeshifter and immortal. Smiling, she wished him luck. He'd thanked her and wondered if that was a green light from her, though she wasn't quite his type. In the next scene, the teacher looked visibly troubled while reviewing the test papers. He was examining Wang's paper, reading the words suffocation, freezing, combustion, pulverization, and thinking to himself, what a guy. The teacher reflected on each of these methods. Suffocation causes unconsciousness. Freezing through liquid nitrogen is deadly, severe burns disable the body, and pulverization might stop regeneration. There was no clear answer to the question because many things could kill an immortal. Most immortals lacked safety awareness, so it was important to assess how much the candidates knew about the dangers. The last question had no right answer but served to test that knowledge. The teacher thought that Wang, being a human immortal mix, might lack physical abilities but had strong intellect. With corrections done, only the impression score remained, his impression. 15 days later, Wang excitedly called his mother while checking his phone. He informed her that he had passed the civil service exam. She responded with mild interest, but when he showed her the results, revealing he had scored the highest, her demeanor changed. She began chopping vegetables faster with excitement. She called someone, announcing proudly that Yano's son had topped the exam. She mentioned top-grade Korean beef, clearly thrilled. Wang asked if he could remove his belt for the day, and his mother replied that he should wear pants with a stretchy waist instead. That night, his father returned home. Wang ran to him with joy and greeted him excitedly. His father responded casually, telling him to say hi properly. Feeling a little embarrassed, Wang joined the family for dinner. During the meal, his father said he had always believed Wang would pass. His mother proudly added that of course he would. It was their son after all. Wang shared that the questions were easier than expected and thought back to stick teacher, realizing how skilled he had been. His father reminded him that the interview would be next, and it would all be over after that. Wang agreed. His mother then asked what department he would be assigned to. The father answered that he'd probably start in a subordinate public enterprise under the Ministry of Public Administration and Security, though he didn't know the details. She was surprised. Wang was too. He looked at his father and suspected he was avoiding the real answer. Wang wondered what kind of work immortal civil servants did and why the government and old force were selecting them. He had many questions, but he doubted his father would answer them. Wang stared at him with curiosity, prompting his father to ask what was wrong. Wang finally asked him to give some tips for the upcoming interview, admitting that he had no clue about what to expect. Shortly after celebrating his first-place result in the written exam, Wang received a text message informing him of the interview date. It was scheduled to be held in the same building as the exam. Despite asking his father about the interview, he was met with a blunt response. His father claimed to know nothing and simply advised Wang to prepare proper responses since interviews typically focus on personality. Preparing for the day, Wang got dressed and thought to himself that this would be the real test. Just as he was about to leave, his mother called out to him, offering words of encouragement. He acknowledged her and stepped out of the house. While waiting for the elevator, he caught a glimpse of his reflection in a mirror. Studying his appearance, he felt confident, like he looked good enough to debut as a celebrity. At that moment, Hyman appeared. Noticing Wang admiring himself, she chuckled and teased him for being arrogant. As they entered the elevator, Wang remarked on how often they had been running into each other lately, jokingly accusing her of stalking him. Hyman denied it, saying she was merely passing by. Wang then reminded her to focus on studying since she was a high school senior, to which she playfully retorted that she'd listen once he became her tutor again. As their exchange lightened, Hyman complimented his suit and Wang, grinning, agreed. Soon, Wang arrived at the interview venue. Entering the waiting room, he saw several candidates already seated, all looking equally determined. He wondered if he should have read more about corporate interviews. Among the applicants, he spotted the same boy who had shown him attitude at the exam hall. Recognizing him, Wang sarcastically referred to him as the lovely little prince in his mind. The boy glanced at Wang again with the same smug expression and turned his head away. Irritated, Wang swore to himself that he wouldn't sit next to him, not because of competition, but just out of principle. Wang's turn came, and a staff member called his name along with his number. He confirmed and walked into the interview room. There, he immediately noticed a boy with pale skin and fiery red hair, mentally nicknaming him Candle. Beside him sat a familiar woman, one he recognized from the testing center. She greeted him, recalling the previous meeting. The interview began with a question about Wang's motivation for applying. Internally, he considered that saying it was because his father told him to would be a bad move. Instead, he responded that he wanted to challenge himself through the tough exam and pursue his dreams. When asked about the dream, he firmly stated that he wanted to fight for the nation and its people. The red-haired interviewer then pushed further, asking how much he would be willing to sacrifice for his allies. Wang honestly admitted it would depend on the situation, choosing practicality over blind idealism. Following this, the woman posed a moral dilemma. If his mother and partner were both drowning, who would he save first? Wang confidently answered that he'd save both, claiming to be a good swimmer. Another scenario came from the red-haired boy, asking what he'd do if he had only one bullet left and two targets. Wang cleverly replied that he'd shoot one and throw the gun at the other. The woman appeared momentarily flustered by the creativity of his answer, then composed herself, regretting her reaction. Reflecting afterward, Wang wondered if his answers had been a bit too bold, but decided that's just how his interview went. A few days later, he was back at home, lying in bed, watching videos and laughing. His mother, seeing his relaxed attitude, warned him not to slack off just because the interview was over and asked about his plans for the day. Wang cheekily claimed he had plans with himself and introduced his day's agenda as PEPS: playing, eating, pooping, and sleeping. Hearing this, his mother gave him a cold stare. Nervous, Wang quickly sat up, pretending to be enthusiastic about going outside. He suggested hiking, saying it had been a while. His mother agreed, asking him to step out for a serious talk. Outside, she reminded him to be careful, as instincts could be dangerous for shapeshifters. Wang asked what kind of dangers, and she bluntly replied, violence being the most common, followed by rape. She then explained the origin of the werewolf legend. A shapeshifter once gave in to their instincts and howled at the full moon. It was a warning, and overwhelmed by desires, they should scream them out instead of acting on them. Wang argued that it was usually mages and metahumans causing trouble, not shapeshifters. His mother insisted that self-control was the key. Wang remembered that after his awakening, his mother often took him hiking. He realized that it had been her way of teaching him self-control. She continued, advising that exercise could help burn excess energy. The real challenge was managing relief, especially since Wang was genetically more prone to causing trouble. Her words overwhelmed him, but she wasn't finished. She complained about the month-long orientation he was about to attend and even suggested postponing his position to explore his options. Surprised, Wang recalled the moment he received the results of his interview. The woman from the panel then handed him a paper and congratulated him. Reading through the form, Wang was shocked by the generous terms. 5-week training, dormitory living, a salary over 60 million won, covered physical training, cultural activities, bonuses, and even military exemption after 18 months of service. He couldn't believe it. It felt like the company was disrupting the entire South Korean work ecosystem. When he asked if he could show the document to his parents, a woman warned that doing so might result in life imprisonment for his mother, saying it with a sweet smile that only made the comment more terrifying. Wang immediately decided against it, though he remained amazed by the benefits. Back in the present, Wang told his mother that he intended to become the head of the Ministry of Public Administration and Security. When she questioned him, he explained that as a young man wanting to contribute to society, such ambition was necessary. Internally, he admitted that while the perks were tempting, he truly wanted to work for a company that had recognized his value. His mother called out his sweet words as nonsense, but he jokingly credited her and his father for his talents and good looks. This made her smile. She said she was glad that he was her child despite his teasing. If there were other shapeshifter kids like him, she would still feel the same. Wang reassured her, saying he was fine. In his thoughts, he reflected on his identity. Being mixed blood had its advantages. Shapeshifters struggled with instincts, immortals with heightened senses, but he was manageable. His instincts were under control and his sensitivity was easy to dull. Confident in himself, he knew he'd do well, no matter where he was or who he was with. In the final scene, Wang stood at a bus stop, luggage by his side, ready to begin the next chapter of his journey. As the next scene begins, Wang sits on the bus, gazing out the window. He watches people drenched in sweat under the scorching sun, realizing that summer has truly arrived. Reflecting internally, he notes that although he couldn't tell at the testing center, now on the bus, it's clear who is pure-blooded and who isn't. Their distinct appearance and unique atmosphere make it obvious, and his heightened immortal senses and intuition confirm it. Glancing beside him, Wang notices the same boy who sat next to him before. Once again, they've ended up seated side by side. Observing others chatting nearby, Wang thinks to himself how quickly people have already made new friends. He recalls his father's words, encouraging him to make friends and not judge based on first impressions. Some people who give off a bad first impression turn out to be okay. And the opposite can also be true. Wang had responded with understanding back then, and his father, gently stroking his head, had told him he'd grown a lot. Wang had replied with pride, claiming he was now bigger than his father. To this, his father had warned him not to act like a man-child and asked if he had been sleeping well. Wang assured him he was fine, while his father admitted struggling with sleep at Wang's age. Wang had curiously asked how it was for his father, and he shared how, even though everything else was fine, you could hear every sound from the neighbor's place. Wang asked how he had dealt with that issue, wondering how immortals overcome their sensitivity. His father had tried everything: earplugs, sleeping masks, microfiber blankets, but nothing helped. Eventually, he had bought a 4-story building and made a soundproof room in the middle of it. Wang was impressed by his father's efficiency. Laughing, his father advised him to continue coping with insomnia like an adult, reminding him that society would eventually teach him how to control his senses. Or he joked he could spend 3 years training in the mountains. Considering this, Wang thought that controlling one's senses must be tough. But for him, shapeshifter training had helped. Controlling his senses felt similar to flexing his ears or back muscles. Wang silently thanked his mother for that. Exhausted, his father remarked that everyone is sensitive in some way and Wang should find a method that suits him. Wang asked for solutions, but his father refused, saying it would be no fun that way. When Wang insisted, his father scolded him not to make life too easy and to have some shame. Back in the present, Wang addresses the same arrogant boy, reminding him that they've seen each other 3 times now: at the test center, the interview, and again now. The boy doesn't respond right away, and when he finally does, he asks if Wang knows him. Wang is stunned. This guy had locked eyes with him twice and even tested him both times. Yet he pretends it's his first time seeing him. Frustrated, Wang thinks to himself that the boy must have a terrible memory and is frankly a rude piece of work. Turning around, Wang spots a blonde girl behind him. She doesn't seem like a pureblood, but he greets her anyway. The girl immediately asks if he's a mixed blood, and Wang confirms, saying it should be obvious. She quickly deduces that his father must be the immortal, pointing out his dull senses. She accuses him of accepting this opportunity purely for the favorable conditions, assuming he doesn't even know their destination. Wang, surprised, internally defends himself, saying he accepted the job with grand dreams about the company. She dismisses him as an immature kid. Stung, Wang thinks he's now met another rude person, and this one fancies herself Sherlock Holmes. He asks what she is, and she insults his lack of observational skills. She explains that immortals are highly sensitive, which is why no one is sitting by the windows. The sunlight sneaking in through the curtains is irritating. Even chatting is a strain. She can tell who's mixed blood just by observing who is snacking and chatting. She tells him to shut up, calling him an obtuse bear with no awareness. Her harsh words stun the others into silence. They all agree they should be quiet. Wang is shocked and furious, thinking he wants to punch her and ignore every bit of parental advice he received. But then he acknowledges that she's technically right. His father was once nicknamed the boss of sensitivity while dating. If it had been that hard for his father even after adjusting, these kids must be suffering even more. Still, he believes they could all be a little more respectful. With that, the orientation buzz becomes as silent as a funeral. Even opening a bag of chips now could turn him into a mortal enemy. Thankfully, Wang had a big breakfast. But just then, his stomach begins to ache. A fart threatens to escape. Before it happens, his inner voice, personifying the gas, greets him and asks for permission to go into the outside world. Wang curses the timing, blaming his 2 a.m. soy milk. Remembering the rude girl's comments, he grants the gas permission, deciding to let it aim directly at her. A quiet but potent fart escapes. The horrible smell hits the girl first and slowly spreads across the bus. The odor is so foul, people begin to gag and rush to open windows. Wang is stunned by the dramatic response. The girl, furious, accuses him of having no manners. But Wang, feeling a strange satisfaction, reflects that his revenge was successful, though unintentional. A few hours later, the bus finally arrives at its destination. As they disembark, Wang looks around confused. They seem to be in the middle of nowhere. He wonders if they've rented a condo nearby. Suddenly, a boy calls out to him, asking what he ate in the morning. Another chimes in, asking if he's constipated. Wang figures these must be the mixed bloods who were sitting in the back. He explains that it was just a physiological thing. The second boy introduces himself as Kim Yohan, 21 years old. The first says he's Bang Guda, 23. Wang introduces himself as Wangik, 20 years old, joking that Bang should have been the one to fart since his name sounds like Farting Hyun. Bang laughs, asking if Wang is serious. Yohan points out that age won't matter once they're inside. But Wang insists it's still a company orientation, and they should address each other formally. Bang scoffs, asking if Wang came without knowing anything. As they walk around, Wang realizes in surprise that the place is actually a training camp. A teacher shouts at everyone to get into 5 lines. All the students start running. Wang, watching them, estimates there must be about 100 people. He's disappointed to see so many out of shape, already panting from the short run. The teacher announces that for the next month, everyone must give their all to grow. He's already disappointed by their performance and questions what they can possibly achieve with such weak strength. He boasts that he wasn't like this at their age. He then orders everyone to turn around and look at the 3 in front. The first 15 to arrive will be chosen. Wang is shocked. The same teacher from the exam hall, the bald one, is standing there. Alongside him are the red-haired boy and the same sharp-tongued girl. As everyone starts sprinting, Guang notices Gede and Johan running at full speed. But Guang feels different. Despite everything, he feels calm and peaceful. Maybe it's because he's already endured so much. He estimates that he could probably hop on one foot and still make it halfway. He's adjusted quickly, and now he aims to secure 14th place, fully adapting to this orientation that has suddenly transformed into a full-fledged training camp. In a flashback, Guang's mother warned him never to let anyone discover that he was a shapeshifter. Guang, curious and defiant, questioned what would happen if he were found out. She simply called it troublesome. Unsatisfied, Guang asked if there was a better reason. She repeated his words with a sigh and then explained the harsh truth. Humans saw shapeshifters as ticking bombs, dangerous, unpredictable, potential criminals, unhinged beings who cried to the moon naked. To them, shapeshifters were dangerous people. Back in the present, Guang silently vowed to keep his identity hidden. He had secured the 14th place in the ranking. While everyone else was exhausted, he remained unfazed. Suddenly, the instructor ordered everyone to return home, stating they didn't even have the basics down. The students were visibly upset, but when challenged, they were forced to drop and begin push-ups. Each push-up had to be accompanied by the phrase, "I'm a dumbass." Guang, doing his push-ups, muttered the phrase and felt a strange sense of pride. He thought about how large corporations had strange training programs and even involved couples at the office. Lost in thought, he forgot to say the phrase during a push-up. At that moment, a teacher with a bob haircut scolded him harshly for not keeping the tempo. Internally, Guang felt oddly comforted by her tone. While many students struggled to keep up, one student collapsed completely. The instructor called everyone to stop. He lamented how things had changed since his time and approached the fallen student. The instructor accused him of disrespecting authority, calling him mixed blood, and warned him not to shout, questioning if he wanted to harm purebloods or had issues with his personality. He emphasized the rule of speaking quietly. Terrified, the students responded in unison, confirming his demand. Observing the moment, Guang thought to himself that immortals seemed surprisingly weak. The instructor continued, claiming that back in his day, the student would have been kicked out. Now he was offering two options, leave or receive punishment. The student chose punishment and promised not to regret it. The instructor accepted. A sudden scream pierced the air. Guang turned, curious, and saw that the teacher had broken the student's arm. Another instructor covered the student's mouth to silence his cry. The same teacher reminded him that he was warned not to shout. Guang, disturbed, watched from above and questioned why they were forbidding screams after inflicting such pain. The instructor then warned everyone, breaking rules would result in bone fractures. After 50 or 60 incidents, they were free to break the rules all they wanted. Step by step, he listed the punishments. 2 demerits for cursing, 1 for shouting, 5 for unauthorized fighting. There were more, but they would find out later. Approaching Guang, the instructor mockingly asked if he had enjoyed the show. Guang trembled inside. He certainly hadn't. The instructor reminded them that back in his day, things were different. He declared them subpar and instructed the first 15 students to stand. From that moment forward, he would be known as Instructor Jangwa Lee. The woman with the bob haircut introduced herself as Daram Park, in charge of their physical training. She explained that immortal regeneration depended on physical conditioning, and their orientation's goal was to build that foundation. Guang assumed she was the good cop in this setup. Her calm tone was like a calming breeze. Then, a red-haired teacher stepped forward. His name was Han Kim, and he announced his intention to kill them all. Daram Park clarified the message, saying Han Kim would be teaching them about the immortal body. Guang didn't buy it. To him, Han Kim seemed deadly serious. As chaos grew, Instructor Lee asked anyone who wished to leave to do so. Guang, lost in thought, convinced himself to endure just 1 month. After that, life might become easier. Even if he were shot in the head, he'd survive. He was immortal. So he decided to stay. The instructors ordered silence. The students obeyed, earning praise from the teachers. Then they were led into the apartment building to rest and change. Guang entered and thought the place looked like it belonged in a horror movie. Johan, sweating heavily, said he felt gross and needed a shower. Seeing Johan and Guide in the same apartment made Guang happy, but then he noticed the 2 rude blonde students and felt uneasy again. He saw a smaller, exhausted boy and asked if he was alright. The boy replied weakly that he was fine, though Guang doubted it. Clearly, not all immortals were tough. Another boy caught Guang's eye. His appearance suggested he was from the Middle East. Then he noticed a pair who seemed related and guessed they might be siblings, Jack and Jill Frost. A plain-looking girl followed. He counted 7 guys, 3 girls. Looking at the changing room, Guang found it odd that they weren't separated by gender. He noticed the elegant handwriting on the changing room sign. Just then, the same rude girl warned him not to look at her. Guang calmly replied that he had 0 interest in her. She dismissed him again with sarcasm. Guang silently noted that she had already judged him as a criminal, even without knowing his secret. He wondered what he was supposed to do now. A silver-haired girl approached Guang with a smile, suggesting they agree on some ground rules to ensure a healthy co-living experience. Her voice captivated Guang. He found it incredible. Then the same rude blonde guy barked out a warning. Personal hygiene was to be taken care of outside the room. Anyone who broke this rule would be dead. It was a death threat. The rude girl agreed. Wang, annoyed, wished she be quiet. Even Johan and Guite agreed. Seeing his teammates agree, Wang felt pressure to follow. Everyone stared at him. The blonde boy told him to follow the rules and reminded him to brush his teeth. Basic hygiene was mandatory. Wang's anxiety grew. Reluctantly, he agreed too. During mealtime, all the trainees began eating together in the canteen. A teacher entered and addressed the group, announcing that the teams were numbered from 1 to 10 based on room placement. While eating, Wang thought to himself that the food tasted just okay. The teacher continued, stating that after the meal, each team would select a team leader. Hearing this, Wang mentally prepared himself to observe how others reacted before making a move. Unexpectedly, the cold attitude girl suggested that Xianbei should take the lead. Wang was surprised by her sudden declaration. Xianbei questioned her reasoning, to which the sibling brother claimed that leadership was in Xianbei's blood. Bang supported the suggestion, agreeing without hesitation. Wang then voiced his opinion, noting that Xianbei didn't seem very friendly. In his view, a good leader should be someone who embraces and welcomes all team members. His remark didn't sit well with the attitude girl, who responded coldly, stating that if Wang thought he fit that description, he was gravely mistaken. She insisted that bloodlines were all that mattered, making his opinion irrelevant. She declared that Xianbei would be the team leader. This triggered Wang's frustration. Internally, he compared her to Sherlock Holmes, sarcastically imagining her trying to direct traffic in the chaotic streets of Gangnam. At that moment, Johan confronted Guang, questioning why he kept drawing attention to himself. Wang, now fuming, thought to himself that they could all do whatever they wanted. He didn't care anymore. Later, Wang looked at a tablet and reflected on the day. He had assumed training would begin right after lunch, but it didn't. Instead, they received clothes, cheap boots, and other supplies. The distribution process took time. After collecting everything, they cleaned up, rested, had dinner, and eventually reached nighttime. Before bed, a teacher called for a short training session and asked everyone to pay attention to the screen. The teacher reminded the group that they all knew the name of the company they had applied to. Wang, unsure, asked Johan what the company's name was. Johan responded with sarcasm, to which Guang jokingly suggested it was because he was a great guy. Johan, annoyed, asked if he had lost his mind. Teacher Lee then formally introduced the company as Hualem Data Communications. He explained that the purpose of the training was to identify candidates for full-time positions. Though not official government employees, they were essentially working under the government due to the company's government funding. Hearing this, Guang wondered if his father had called it a government job because of his mother. Teacher Lee went on, complaining that hiring standards had dropped drastically. In his day, he claimed no one would get hired if they couldn't walk on knives. Wang found this repeated phrase tiresome, mentally noting how many times he had heard back in my day already. Teacher Lee ended his speech by advising the trainees to perform well and figure things out themselves if they wanted to succeed. When Teacher Park asked if that was all, Lee confidently stated that everyone already knew what they signed up for. However, Teacher Park added that Hualem's true goal was to help them use their immortal abilities in the right way. Wang reflected on her words, questioning the meaning behind using their skills the right way. As night fell, the teachers instructed everyone to get ready for bed. Lying down after a warm shower, Wang found himself surprisingly comfortable and expected to fall asleep easily. However, the chatter among his roommates disturbed him, making it hard to rest. Irritated, he blamed his hypersensitive roommates and his thoughts. Johan, also annoyed, told Guang to stop breathing. Confused, Guang asked if Johan wanted him to die, to which Johan bluntly said yes and told him to leave and die. Wang thought back to something his father had said, that immortals needed at least 3 years to master insomnia. Wige, being the oldest at 23, confirmed that everyone was still struggling. Still, Johan had told him to die. Johan then accepted that he wouldn't be sleeping that night. Guang asked how he managed without sleep, and Johan explained that he had a last resort method. When Guang asked if it involved cutting off his head, Johan admitted it was something similar, fainting. Since they were immortal, it wasn't a big deal. Intrigued, Guang offered to help. As Johan turned away, explaining that blacking out for sleep was tricky and required careful force, Guang suddenly grabbed his face and knocked him out, bidding him sweet dreams. Bang watched in shock and asked if Guang was some kind of human sleeping pill. Guang turned to Weekday and teased him, asking if he wanted to dream of him too. Bang, caught off guard, played along until Guang grabbed his face and knocked him out as well. Guang then looked around and asked if anyone else wanted to dream of him. The rest of the students, now terrified, watched as he methodically put each of them to sleep. When he noticed that the fatty boy had already fallen asleep on his own, he felt satisfied, thinking that everyone was now off to dreamland. Everyone except Xianbei and the attitude girl. Wang referred to the remaining 2 as the 4 Scythias in his mind. The attitude girl coldly acknowledged his efforts, saying he wasn't completely useless and thanking him. Her words angered Guang, who snapped back, making it clear that he wasn't helping her at all. The girl firmly stated that this was a transactional exchange. Since they were roommates, she expected Guang to help her sleep that night and promised to return the favor later. She demanded he get that through his head. Guang turned away, thinking to himself that while this might be transactional, it didn't include his feelings. He simply replied with a casual whatever. Suddenly, an idea struck him. Guang walked up very close to her and said he'd help her out. With those words, he forcefully struck her shoulders with both hands. The girl instantly passed out. Feeling proud, Guang thought to himself that this wasn't assault. This was a lullaby, a physical lullaby. Looking around, Guang saw Xianbei still awake. He stared at Guang with a rude expression and silently lay down and went to sleep. Guang, watching him, casually thought that was fine and went to bed himself. That night, everyone in Team 3 slept deeply, all except one. Xianbei couldn't sleep, and by morning, he had visible dark circles under his eyes. Guang, pleased, thought to himself how much he looked forward to bedtime from now on. The next morning marked the start of a packed day. During the first period, Instructor Lee took charge. He ordered everyone to run. The students began running with difficulty, struggling to keep up. The instructor reminded them that this wasn't hell. It was just a warm-up. Guang, pretending to be worn out, acted like it was tough for him too. After the run, Guang explained that it was a basic physical training session, some running and weight training. In the second period, it moved to hand-to-hand combat. Teacher Park informed everyone that immortal bodies weren't invincible. They had to understand their weaknesses, and one of them was the chin. Soon, Guang was set to fight a boy who confidently stated he used to wrestle. Guang responded casually. The boy warned Guang not to blame him if he got knocked off his feet. He charged forward to attack. Guang slightly shifted aside and sarcastically said he might fall and punched the boy hard, knocking him out immediately. Impressed by the fight, Teacher Park complimented Guang. He downplayed it as mere luck. Then Guang described the session as basic hand-to-hand combat training. The third period arrived, Mr. Candleman's turn. It was time for a traditional training exercise for immortals, running on knives. The blades resembled the ones Xianbei had set up in his forest house, and Guang had mastered this training long ago. The teacher instructed everyone to run through the blade path. The other students panicked. Bang, seeing the setup, mentally questioned how they were expected to run there. Although Guang wasn't really fazed, he pretended to be shocked. He noted that the blades were only an inch high, while the ones Tutor Stick had used were 6 inches high. The scene ended there. Guang then told us that for him, it felt like a mild massage session, but he still pretended to struggle. A week passed. One night, Guang, now excited, wondered if Mr. Pretty Forsythia would reject him again. He planned to ask him twice just to enjoy watching him turn away speechless. Looking around, Guang noticed something felt off. Everyone was unusually stiff. Curious, he asked Johan what was going on. Johan explained that the previous night, while they were asleep, their team leader had been unable to sleep. Xianbei had gone outside and gotten into a fight with some kids from next door who also couldn't sleep. Apparently, he had thrown several punches. As a result, other recruits had been glaring at them all day. Guang, unsure if the whispering had worked, suddenly heard footsteps approaching. The sound made it clear that more than one person was coming toward their room. Xianbei, stepping up, declared that this was his issue to handle and ordered everyone to stay back. Guang, in his mind, called him a selfish prick. Soon, a group of students arrived. Their tired faces made it clear they hadn't slept well either. One of them stepped forward, glaring in anger, and loudly asked if anyone knew a Guang Q. The boy stood there with an intense glare. Guang raised his hand casually and introduced himself. In his mind, he wondered if that Forsythia bastard had thrown him under the bus. The angry student confirmed his name, asking if he was truly Guangik. Without flinching, Guang confidently acknowledged it and questioned what the boy wanted. But surprisingly, the boy's expression softened. Embarrassed, he admitted that he too wanted to dream of Guang that night. Guang and the others were left stunned by the unexpected comment. Even Johan, who had been trembling in fear earlier, was caught off guard. Guang quickly clarified that he preferred girls. The boy, now flustered, explained that wasn't what he meant at all. He just desperately needed help to sleep, having heard that everyone in Guang's group slept peacefully. He pleaded for assistance, fearing he might collapse from exhaustion. Guang realized the misunderstanding and agreed to help. As they walked toward the boy's room, Guang asked how he had heard about him. The boy explained that rumors about Guang had spread among the students. Guang was surprised to hear that and asked what rumors. The boy laughed, saying Johan had a pretty big mouth. Guang then brought up the strange way the boy had expressed his request, and the boy sheepishly admitted Johan told him to say it like that. Guang then realized why the boy had burst out laughing earlier. The boy, now a little nervous, asked if he was causing trouble or if the sleep-helping thing was hard. Guang assured him that it wasn't difficult or time-consuming. That night, Guang went room to room, helping every member of Team 1 fall into deep sleep, describing it as giving them all a peaceful neck slicing. The next day, during lunchtime, the same boy from Team 1 approached Guang enthusiastically. He complimented Guang's skills and mentioned how much he had enjoyed the previous night. Guang, a bit embarrassed, told him to be careful with his words as people might get the wrong impression. After lunch, training resumed as usual. Instructor Lee shouted at the students, frustrated by their lack of progress. He questioned how long they would struggle through warm-ups and when they finally improve. During the session, one overweight student was seen having difficulty running. He lagged far behind, struggling to keep up. Instructor Lee noticed him and harshly criticized his pace. He claimed that back in his day, immortals were more disciplined and could manage their bodies better. He warned that anyone failing to finish on time would face the consequences. Wang observed the tired boy as he sat down under a tree, completely exhausted. Feeling bad, Wang approached and asked if he was okay. The boy, panting, told Guang to just go on. Instead, Guang walked up to him, grabbed his jacket, and insisted they finish the run together. He encouraged the boy to walk fast, advising him to focus on breathing and avoid dragging his feet. Teacher Lee spotted the two of them running side by side. Though they arrived at the finish line last, Wang didn't mind. Instructor Lee, unimpressed, sarcastically asked if they were dating and penalized them with 5 points each. But Guang remained unaffected. The overweight boy collapsed in exhaustion, but Guang reassured him not to worry. Surprised, the boy asked if he was crazy. Wang jokingly responded that the boy was questioning his mental state instead of apologizing. As he walked away, Wang thanked him and promised they finish on time tomorrow. The boy, confused, asked why he was helping him. Wang replied that without camaraderie, he would be nothing but a walking corpse. Reflecting on the situation, Wang explained that one doesn't need a reason to help someone drowning. Just like someone had once helped him without a reason, he now did the same. Later that evening, Johan asked Wang if he would be putting Team 1 to sleep again. Wang confirmed he would. Johan then asked if Wang could help their team leader too, since his dark circles now reached down to his chin. Wang said he had been offering help every night, but their leader kept scowling and giving him the cold shoulder, which he secretly found exhilarating. Johan chuckled, remarking that the two of them were quite the force. As Wang looked over at Bang, he leaned toward Johan and softly asked what was going on with Guite. Johan responded by mentioning something that had happened earlier that day at the convenience store. In a flashback, Bang and Johan were at the store when Bang noticed a purse lying on the ground. The name on the purse read Mio Wu. Picking it up, Bang handed it back to its owner and pointed out how funny it was that they had been living together for a week without knowing each other's names. The girl turned out to be the same cold-attitude girl, Mio. As Bang started to introduce himself, Mio abruptly shut him down, saying she wasn't interested and walked off, taking her purse. This response left Wang feeling uneasy. Johan then commented that Bang had been acting this way ever since. Trying to lift his mood, Wang encouraged him, but Bang softly muttered Mio's name, almost lost in thought. Surprised, Wang asked him what he said, but Bang, blushing and dreamy, repeated her name, saying it was as beautiful as she was. Wang, now deeply confused, wondered if Bang had hit his head during training. Bang continued saying that he knew she was his type from the moment he saw her. Wang, clearly disturbed by this sudden infatuation, warned him, insisting that Mio wasn't the right one. But Bang dismissed his concerns and asked what Wang knew about her. Wang threw the question back at him, and Bang simply stated that he was really into her. Wang again tried to warn him, but Bang brushed it off. Later, as they headed back to their room, they found a crowd of students waiting outside. Confused, the trio looked around. One student pointed at Wang, confirming he was Guanik Yu. The girl noted that he was the tall one who had farted on the bus. Another student claimed that just one hit from him could knock someone out with no side effects, leaving them feeling refreshed by morning. Multiple students eagerly approached, praising his strength control and requesting help. Leaders from teams 5 and 4 asked if Wang could help their teams sleep too, wanting to experience his dream-inducing touch. Wang stood stunned by the unexpected attention, and both he and Bang glanced sharply at Johan. Confused at first, Johan quickly realized the situation and nervously admitted that all he did was talk about how amazing Wang was. Bang called it a confession. Overwhelmed, Wang started worrying about how he put all those people to sleep. Achieving the perfect blackout required adjusting pressure for each individual, and he estimated it would take over an hour. His mics quickly grew busy. One by one, he knocked each student unconscious, carefully helping them sleep. As the final girl came forward, Wang, exhausted, still managed to knock her out too. Despite his packed night schedule, Wang kept up his nightly ritual. Returning to his room, he finally felt relieved, believing his job was done. But then he noticed Xianbei lying in bed. Wang approached and asked if he needed help sleeping too. Xianbei, without facing him, told him to piss off. This stubborn reply reignited Wang's frustration, but also amused him. He admitted to himself that this never got old and was strangely thrilling. Fueled by this thought, Wang struck Xianbei hard on the shoulder, putting him asleep as well. Over time, every night began to look the same. Students gathered in a line at the same room, waiting to be put to sleep by Wang. He instructed everyone to get in line and carry each other back to bed afterward. Their collective insomnia turned into a routine nightly activity. Instructors didn't stop it, and almost everyone relied on Wang's special technique to fall asleep. He slowly became a celebrity among the trainees. Students came up with various nicknames for him, but one in particular stuck. The following day, the cheerful student known as the Pokey Boy approached Wang with a grin, calling him Neck Wang and Neck Wangik. Annoyed, Guang grumbled internally about how they replaced his family name with a nickname. The boy then offered him a chocolate bar, which Guang accepted without hesitation. They both began eating, and Guang, tasting the sweet treat, noted how good it was. The boy cheerfully declared that was the best. As Guang enjoyed the chocolate, he reflected on everything and realized that this strange, intense training called the orientation was finally nearing its end. In the next scene, several lifeless monsters are shown on screen. The teacher begins explaining, referring to them as invaders. These were the monsters that had emerged from a black hole to invade Earth. It had been about 20 years since the appearance of that black hole. Numerous types of invaders had poured out from the last one. To deal with them, a numbering system was developed to identify each species. It started at number 1, and the higher the number, the later the invader had emerged. The tablet given to the trainees displayed images and methods to combat each invader. The ones displayed were the most commonly encountered. These invaders were capable of killing immortals, but with proper awareness and education, they could be faced without fear. However, some invaders were to be avoided at all costs. These were called named, while numbering referred to species, named referred to individual invaders. One of them was known as the Blue Knight. During a massive gate event, when a huge black hole appeared, this single entity took down around 500 armed fighters alone. It had 2 pairs of golden wings, hover propellers on both feet, and could reach a speed of 93 miles per hour. It carried blue energy blades extending from both arms. After hearing all this, Wang begins to understand things more clearly. With the invader education course and the ongoing physical training, he finally grasps the reality. Hualem Data Communications, a public company under the Ministry of Interior and Safety, was directly involved with handling invaders, those that vanished into white holes or came through black holes. Even though society was supposedly in a period of safety, fear of invaders still lingered. Thus, organizations were needed to confront them, and Hualem was one of those. Wang now understood why the salaries were so high, and he welcomed this realization. If this was the case, he felt there was no longer a reason to join the Navy SEALs or the military. The teacher then warned them, if they ever came across the Blue Knight, they must run. The name were nightmares. Wang, reflecting on this, wonders why his father sent him here. Was his father really pushing his son into such danger? The teacher reminded everyone that this material would be tested, and that they must memorize everything on their tablets. Guang decided he would ask his father about this later. More courses were added midway through orientation. One was the old instructor's lecture series on invaders, while the second was a session led by the Bob Cut instructor on support items for immortals. Teacher Park then presented a new device, a blood jack. She explained that twisting the cap and plugging it into one's arm allowed the device to find a vein and supply blood. This version was a mix of sedatives, stimulants, and a special leaf extract. When pressed into the skin, it injected a formula that temporarily boosted physical abilities. They called it a battle potion, officially labeled BB-8. Everyone, including Guang, was shocked. Stimulants, sedatives, battle potions. Park, smiling, warned them to use it cautiously to avoid addiction. Being immortal wouldn't protect them from the consequences of overdose. Withdrawal symptoms could last a lifetime. Wang found it strange that she shared this alarming information with a smile. It felt uncanny. Park continued, explaining that the formula was developed in Germany and was known as Odin's Blessing or Wotan's Blessing. It was one of the top formulas classified as a mind cocktail. As she searched through more equipment, Guang, still stunned, thought to himself, he was in a world full of junkies. The final course added was Instructor Candle's weaponry training series. Soon after, the students began gun shooting practice. Teacher Kim addressed them, stating there was a huge difference between not knowing how to do something and knowing it but choosing not to. Guang noted that training became a mix of repeated running, weightlifting, skill building, and physical endurance. He continued helping Purium, and others began to follow. This time, not just the fatty boy, but also the Pookie boy held Purium's hand. From behind, Johan laughed, offering to push, and the Pookie boy took the other side. Gradually, people started adjusting to this extreme routine. The number of people Wang had to help get to sleep started decreasing. Everyone slowly learned to complete their morning runs. Even Purium managed to finish it on his own eventually. A month passed. One day, the teacher announced that training was now complete. No one had received enough penalty points to be expelled. That meant they were now officially Hualem employees. Everyone was thrilled and proud of their hard work. Teacher Kim called everyone to attention. The orientation results were about to be presented. The rankings were based on training and testing scores. Department placement would follow this rank system. Additionally, the top 3 employees would receive bonuses. Wang thought to himself, nothing beats cash prizes. The teacher began announcing names. 3rd place went to Hayomen Guy. Wang was surprised and wondered who this person even was, having never seen them mentioned before. Hayomen, excited, responded with gratitude, and teacher Lee congratulated him. Lee added that they would consider his department choice seriously. Hayomen stated he wanted to join the security department, but Lee told him to share that later. Watching all this, Guang thought that for a 3rd rank holder, Hayomen didn't seem particularly impressive. Teacher Kim then announced the 2nd place winner, Jinam Seonbae Jong. Wang expected it. It was in his blood. A flashback followed, showing Johan asking Guang if he was truly immortal. Wang responded that it was obvious just by looking at him. Bang disagreed, saying looks didn't help Wang's case. Drinking his beverage, Johan explained that Jinim was from the pure-blooded Zhang family. Wang questioned if that meant noble blood ran through his veins. Bang clarified that it wasn't about nobility. Depending on the bloodline, pure bloods had faster recovery rates and sharper senses compared to mixed bloods. Physically, they were superior. The kid Guang referred to as Forsythia was actually the purest of the pure bloods. Wang acknowledged that Jinim came from one of the top 3 bloodlines. Despite struggling with sleepless nights, Jinim still maintained top training scores and displayed remarkable focus in every class. Wang admitted that while Jinim likely had impressive abilities, what stood out was his sheer determination. There was a desperation in him that Wang couldn't ignore. Even if Jinim acted like a stuck-up prick, it was clear he belonged among the top 2. Hearing this, Bang was stunned. If Jimin wasn't first, then could it be him? Wang didn't hold back and mocked him, calling poor Witta clearly delusional. Johan chimed in, agreeing, saying it could never be him. Annoyed by their teasing, Bang snapped, accusing them of being terrible friends. Soon, teacher addressed the trainees about to reveal the top scorer. In his mind, Guang already knew that if Jinim was second, the first place could only be one person. The teacher then announced the name, Mio Wu. Bang's face lit with joy at hearing her name. Wang reflected on Mio, also known as Forsythia Holmes. She lacked empathy and had a communication style he found off-putting. Still, she was exceptionally intelligent. She quickly figured out the point system and devised a strategy to maximize her score. She would abandon her teammates during training if they didn't help her score, and even told those who approached her to focus on their own training instead. Teacher Lee congratulated her, and Mio responded with a polite thank you. Wang still found her terrible despite her brilliance. The teacher encouraged everyone to applaud, and the group clapped for the top 3. As Wang watched the 3 standing on the platform, he had a strange feeling that he would eventually become entangled with each of them. Then, confused, he tried to recall the name of the trainee who ranked 3rd. Teacher informed everyone that their free time would extend until 2 in the afternoon the next day. Johan asked what they should do now. Wang suggested throwing a party. Bang wondered aloud if alcohol was even sold in the facility. At that moment, a teacher approached and asked trainee number 48 if he was available later that day. Number 48 replied that he was. The teacher told him to come by the smoking room for a chat. Number 48 agreed. Before leaving, the teacher returned briefly and handed number 48 his number, instructing him to reach out once he got out. Number 48 acknowledged again. It became clear that this teacher was the same one who had trained Guang earlier, and number 48 was Guang himself. Curious and surprised, Bang asked Guang what that was all about. Jovan teased him, asking what terrible thing he must have done. Feeling uneasy, Guang defended himself, asking why they always assumed the worst. Looking at a paper in his hand, Guang realized what was going on. The teacher was trying to recruit him into his department. Guang had suspected it from the beginning. This orientation wasn't just about training in basic immortal skills. There was also a way to evaluate them for potential recruitment. The true purpose might have been far deeper than they realized. Meanwhile, Pookie Boy handed a girl a piece of paper, thanking her for helping him adjust quickly and for giving him peaceful sleep. The girl smiled and suggested they hang out one day. Heidemann told another girl to stay in touch, and she replied that she would see him at work. As the crowd dispersed, Wang reflected that many people had gathered here. He thought that achieving first place wouldn't have been difficult if he had really tried. But he hadn't needed that. Other things mattered more. He considered the orientation a success. Later, Jovan asked Guang if he had run into an invader on his way to the store since he took so long. Guang joked that his popularity had delayed him. Fatty Boy grumbled that he didn't like the ice cream flavor Guang brought. Jovan added that he didn't even get the mint chocolate. Annoyed by their complaints, someone nearby shouted at them for being ungrateful and called for their attention. Everyone turned in surprise and looked toward the entrance. Guang immediately sensed something was off. At least one of the 10 immortals should have noticed someone approaching. The only explanation was presence masking, someone with the ability to suppress their presence completely. The person stepped forward and confirmed he was in the right place. He mentioned hearing impressive things about this year's candidates. Then he introduced himself as Myeonjin Nam, the CEO of Hualum Data Communications. All the trainees stood up and saluted as the CEO arrived. Guang recognized the name Myeonjin Nam. He remembered seeing it on his tablet. Born in 1973 with military experience, the man had served on the emergency strategy team for 8 years. He was a first-generation immortal present through much of immortal history since the terrible year. He had been part of the Old Forces Korean branch and was ranked among the top 10 immortals. The CEO dismissed their salute casually and asked everyone to take a seat. He asked if they had enjoyed training. All the students answered affirmatively. The CEO immediately called it a lie, saying no one could possibly enjoy cutting into their own bodies and painfully healing. Bang looked surprised at his blunt words. Wang thought to himself that Witte needed to work on his social skills. The CEO laughed, noting at least one person was being honest. He encouraged them to train hard, saying it could one day save their lives. He said he spoke from experience. Then he called out Jung's name. Jung stood up and responded promptly. The CEO shook his hand and praised him for his excellent work. Jung thanked him respectfully. Next, the CEO called for Mio. She responded, and he told her that he had great expectations for her. Mio thanked him. Wang wondered about the CEO's presence. He assumed it was to congratulate the first and second place winners. He mused that maybe CEOs didn't have such busy schedules after all. But then the CEO called Wang's name. Wang was shocked that the CEO had addressed Wang directly. The CEO noted that Wang was mixed, and Wang confirmed it. The CEO looked at him curiously and said it wasn't bad. He asked if Wang was 20 years old, and Wang confirmed again. Then the CEO asked if he had a girlfriend. Wang said no, and the CEO responded that it was a good thing since these were his busiest years. Wang disagreed internally, wishing he could go on dates too. He felt uncomfortable under the CEO's stare. Before leaving, the CEO told Wang he would see him at work. Then he addressed everyone, saying he was leaving gifts behind and advised them not to get too wild. As they exited, Johan looked at Wang, puzzled, and asked why the CEO had only spoken to him. He jokingly asked if Wang was the CEO's secret son and mentioned that he even winked at Wang. Wang said it was the first time he had seen the man and joked that maybe the CEO was into him, though he recalled the CEO was married. Johan said he had heard the CEO had one daughter. Teacher Park left a box for them. Wang tapped it and asked how Johan knew what was inside, since it wasn't mentioned on the tablet. Teacher Park warned them to be wise, stating that if they got wasted, they would be fine leaving the next morning. Wang was curious and asked if it was alcohol. He thought the event would be a dry party. Meanwhile, Bang attempted to talk to Mio. Without looking at him, Mio rejected him flatly while focusing on her tablet. Bang still tried, mentioning it was their last night and offering her a drink. Mio declined, saying alcohol dulled the senses and she didn't need it. Bang looked completely dejected. Watching this, Wang commented sarcastically on Wutte's persistence. Jovan laughed, declaring 16 straight losses for Mr. Wittebang and calling it a full knockout. One of the heavier boys opened the box and was surprised it wasn't alcohol. Wang then explained it was mind cocktail beloved by immortals. Once consumed, it dulled the senses and relaxed the body, curing even the worst cases of immortal insomnia. Bang handed Guang a bottle, saying there were 10, likely one for each of them. Jovan was amazed, noting each can was worth 3 million won. Wang found it extravagant that the CDO had gifted them such expensive potions. Zhang tossed his can away and sat down, his face completely red. Everyone was shocked and called him a damned little bastard. Wang wondered if Zhang was directing that energy at him. Zhang immediately passed out, impressing Bang, who noted Zhang was known to be hypersensitive. Jovan remarked that Zhang had cursed at him and then instantly passed out, calling him a coward. Bang reminded Johan of all the things he had done to Zhang, accusing him of dragging his feet on purpose when heading to the bathroom. Wang denied it, saying it had just become a habit after getting to know Jenam. Bang laughed and called it funny. Later, Mio walked up to Guang and stared at him silently. Wang noticed her gaze and Mio thanked him for everything. Wang responded with a casual sure. Mio handed him a letter, saying it was for him in return. Wang looked confused but accepted it. Mio added that it was just for his eyes only. Bang saw this and was visibly upset that Mio had given Guang a letter. He refused to believe it, muttering that it couldn't be. Guang smiled and teased him, saying he didn't stand a chance. Bang argued, pointing to Guang's face and saying he wasn't losing to him. Wang walked away, replying that Bang probably hadn't seen his own face. Johan interjected, saying both of them were equally hideous. Laughing, Bang said he couldn't stay sober any longer. Wang moved away to read the letter. In it, Mito had written that the CEO was known for keeping tabs on a select few from each incoming group of employees. If he liked someone, they had a smooth path to success. But if they failed to meet his expectations, their work life would become hell. She warned Wang be careful and not share the contents with anyone else. Wang begins to wonder silently. The way the woman mentioned the CEO's habits and phrased her words suggested she knew more than she let on. It was clear she didn't drink alcohol, but she did drink potions. Later, Wang casually tells Bang congratulations and mentions that the note wasn't what Bang thought. Confused, Bang demands to see the note, but Wang refuses. Angry and frustrated, Bang yells at him, saying he hates him, but sarcastically thanks him for sparing his feelings. Wang tries to explain, but Bang, still upset, calls in a little prick and storms off to his bed. No one finds the situation amusing and comments on it, while Wang feels uneasy. He tells us that he emptied a can of blunt and went to sleep. The next day marks the first day of work. Wang walks into a large building and enters an internal security room. Upon entering, he approaches a man and introduces himself, saying he's from External Security Team 3 and thinks this is the right place. Observing the man, Wang wonders if he's the team leader. When the man doesn't respond, Wang awkwardly debates whether he should greet him properly. At that moment, another man enters the room and receives a phone call. As he listens, his expression shifts to complete shock and he yells in disbelief. He's stunned that a first-year employee has been sent and argues over the phone, insisting that someone more experienced should have been assigned, at least a top-ranked first year. He pleads with the caller, saying it must be a mistake, and tries to deny cursing during the call. Meanwhile, a red-haired woman working nearby tells Wang to take a seat. He sits down quietly as she walks away. She approaches the unresponsive man and asks what they should do. He replies that he has no clue. She then asks the other man, who also says he doesn't know. Taking charge, the woman decides she'll train the first year. Wang senses something's off and thinks there must be a mistake. The woman calls for him and he promptly responds. She gives him his duties and hands over a list of all Hualem employees, instructing him to memorize it completely by tomorrow and burn it afterward. Wang is shocked at the short deadline. She explains the tasks. Outside of meals and bathroom breaks, he must remain seated. One phone is for security calls, the other for regular calls. When answering a security call, he must state his name and connect the caller to the right person. A manual on the phone explains how to do that. For regular calls, you must avoid any mention of immortals, transformers, or internal matters of the company. Wang nods and agrees. As she leaves, she says she's off to conduct her investigation. After she departs, Wang becomes overwhelmed and struggles to process everything. Slowly, frustration begins to build inside him. The scene transitions. Wang, Johan, and Bang are seen eating together at a restaurant. Wang brings up a question about their supervisors. Johan says they're fine, and Bang adds that they're nice. Curious, Wang asks why. Johan reveals that there's been some talk, specifically that the CEO, Myanjin, was directly involved in Wang's role placement. Wang is surprised to hear that the boss himself placed him there. Bang explains that Myanjin is known for accommodating departmental transfer requests, and this isn't the first time he's gotten involved. But the real issue is the nature of Wang's department. External Security Team 3 belongs to the dispatch headquarters, which is known for its demanding workload. Only the top elites usually make it into external security. Jovan adds that the team has a notorious reputation. When Wang wonders if it's about making first years suffer, Johan clarifies it's known for causing the deaths of first-year employees. Shocked by this revelation, Wang can only react in disbelief. Jovan explained that Wang's team leader had a fearsome reputation. He was known as the Blender because he got a habit of turning all first-year employees into metaphorical smoothies. Then he mentioned another teammate, one who looked like a panda. That person worked at the internal control tower and was said to be incredible. Everyone in the company knew about them and many tried to recruit them. Wang was surprised to hear this and admitted to himself that he too thought the guy looked like a panda. Curious, he asked about the other team member. Johan answered in a hushed tone. That person was Anicap, a superhuman created by the use of superdrugs. This revelation left Wang stunned. Johan continued, explaining that the superdrug was humanity's attempt to control supernatural powers. Lacking these powers themselves, humans developed superdrugs through government experiments involving sorcery, magic, and alchemy. These substances gave people unnatural abilities, but the documents from orientation hadn't revealed how many brutal tests and inhumane methods had been involved. Realizing this, Wang was taken aback by the thought that Anicap was one of those enhanced humans. Johan then revealed Anicap's nickname, the Knife. She chopped up the first years while the team leader blended them. Together, their group was jokingly called the Avengers. Wang, shocked, repeated the name. Johan said the panda-like guy once told him that he was part of CEO Nam's Avengers. But with a blender, a panda, and a knife, it really did sound like they were the real Avengers. Just then, Bang and Johan noticed someone behind Wang. Turning around, Wang saw Anicap. She confronted him angrily, reminding him that she had asked him to memorize the list of employees, not to dig into their personal histories. Wang was visibly terrified. After saying her piece, Anicap walked away. At that moment, a restaurant worker approached and offered a dish of nuts to Wang on the house. Looking at the plate of roasted pine nuts, Wang felt utterly doomed. In the next scene, Wang sat at his workplace, mentally trying to cope with everything. According to the internet, he thought, unlike it's hard, you can hypnotize yourself. He imagined he was at work just for fun, that this was merely a hobby. In his fantasy, he was a prince from an oil-rich country living the life of a commoner. He tried not to care about how the three saw him. To him, their opinions were laughable. Just then, someone approached and confirmed Wang's identity. It was Guangsu Park from Support Team 1 who asked to speak with Zhang A. Guang, relayed the message, calling him Mr. Wangsun Park. Zhang A corrected him sharply, pointing out that it was Guangsu, not Wangsun, and that he was manager Guangsu Park. Guang acknowledged the correction. The caller, irritated, cursed under his breath. Another voice remarked that Guang seemed dumb too. In his thoughts, Wang sarcastically called himself their prince and them his peasants. His daily routine consisted of memorizing employee names, answering phone calls, and connecting callers to team members. But when no one was around, he took the opportunity to learn from employees from earlier cohorts. In a flashback, one such senior spotted him and jokingly called him Next Slice. Guang, slightly surprised, responded with a simple confirmation. Thanks to these interactions, he started understanding more about his team. He first spoke about Zhengbong Li, the team leader. A pureblood with the highest combat ranking in Hualem, Zhengbong didn't discriminate against mixed or non-pure bloods. He was known as the best hand-to-hand combatant and the strongest fighter. Guang recalled moments with him, like when Zhengbong looked at him and muttered "piss off," which Guang interpreted as a cue to go get lunch. Another time, Zhengbong said "duck off," and Guang figured that meant the day was over. Once more, when Zhengbong simply said "duck," Guang just took it at face value. He noted that his team leader's favorite words seemed to be "duck," earning him the nickname Team Leader F-Bomb. Next, Guang introduced Donghun Li, the senior assistant, a mixed blood who couldn't fight or shoot. Donghun had specialized skills in his own field and worked in the control tower when needed. He had given up combat to focus on strategy. In a flashback, Donghun asked Guang if he was bored or had nothing to do. Frustrated with his own work, Donghun often expressed how close he was to quitting. Guang admitted that while he didn't know where Donghun's genius lay, he did know that the man liked anime. Lastly, Guang talked about Jonna Kim, a human enhanced by super drugs. She was one of the very few humans working at Hualem and one of the best. She had trained at an elite boot camp and had ranked A in combat and B in shooting. Among all the humans at Hualem, she was the top performer, second only to Zhengbong Li. In one flashback, she handed Guang a document and ordered him to memorize it. In another, she told him sternly to get his act together. Before leaving for an investigation, she informed him without emotion, wearing her jacket in a composed manner. Guang described her voice as cold and emotionless. He concluded by reflecting on the External Security Division. It was said that only the most qualified people worked there. They were all incredible individuals, though they had absolutely terrible personalities. 1 week after the first day of work, Guang and his team arrived at a control room. Inside, 2 men sat watching a screen. As they noticed the newcomers, they asked if they were from Security Team 3. The team leader confirmed it. Guang looked around and noticed a man wearing sunglasses. In his thoughts, he recognized him as Janim's team leader. Stepping forward, Guang introduced himself politely as Guang Yu, a first year. One of the men who had yellow hair responded positively. Donghun then asked about the rest of their team, to which the yellow-haired man explained that he had sent them off due to other tasks. The man at the screen then asked if they were ready, stating that he was about to increase the levels. The screen showed John doing push-ups, and seeing this, Guang grew confused. He thought they were just here for a regular in-house testing session and wondered what was really happening. The man at the screen explained it was a gravity machine developed from technology sourced from beyond the gate. Guang showed interest, but Donghun interrupted, saying they already knew about it. Guang tried to justify the explanation, mentioning that he was a first year, but Donghun rudely cut him off, insisting on keeping things brief. Frustrated, Guang silently cursed him. Jonna Kim then gave a clear explanation. She stated that upon entering the area, participants would feel strong gravitational pulls, up to 9 times stronger than normal. The test required running in place 10 times, doing 10 push-ups, and running 3 rounds against the wall. She mentioned they had passed records of team leader Zhengbong. Donghun added that he had already completed his test the previous week and had a waiver. The yellow-haired man said they only needed to run the test on the first year now. Janum was doing well, and they decided to increase the level to 46, expecting Janum to handle even 56. They proceeded with 5 G gravity levels. Jung visibly struggled and became exhausted. Guang found it hard to hold back his laughter, but tried his best to keep a straight face in front of everyone. Noticing this, Jonna Kim asked him if he found the situation funny and demanded silence. Embarrassed, Guang immediately complied. Soon after, Zhang collapsed from exhaustion. The yellow-haired man acknowledged it and confirmed he was done. Dong, laughing, told Guang it was his turn and to keep that smile on his face. Another team leader remarked that Guang should have been in their team. As Guang stepped into the gravity chamber and stood still, Dong looked concerned and asked if they were being too harsh. The team leader disagreed, stating that many trainees break once they enter the field. Jonna Kim added that she preferred a trained, obedient dog over a dead weight. Dong agreed, but pointed out that Guang didn't understand what was going on yet and would likely resent them. The team leader responded that resentment was fine. What mattered was that Guang had to be exceptional for this job. He added that having Guang quit early would be better for everyone. In his thoughts, he reflected that it was better than Guang developing a dangerous condition known as numbsadism. This rare mental illness affected immortals, causing them to lose all sensation and harm others just to feel something again. Immortals with this condition were considered as dangerous as transformers with uncontrollable urges. He concluded that once Guang left, he would be transferred to a safer role in administration or the information department, positions better suited for mixed bloods who failed to stand out during orientation. Frustrated, he wondered why the CEO had sent this kid to them. Just then, the man at the screen noted that Guang was doing well and decided to raise the level to 46. Dong observed Guang's performance and commented on how strong he looked. Jonna Kim said his endurance was enough to pass. For a first year, he was average, but what they really needed was someone with real potential. Suddenly, the team leader noticed something unusual. Wang wasn't slowing down. Curious, he asked about Wang's speed. The man at the screen confirmed that his speed was the same as it was at level 26. Surprised, the team leader told them to continue the test. Wang performed all the exercises with incredible speed, causing his rank to rise steadily. Everyone in the room watched in amazement. Finally, the man at the screen, stunned by the results, asked whether they should keep going. The team leader, equally shocked, responded with growing curiosity. Wang continues to complete his exercises with increasing speed. As he pushes himself, thoughts of the team leader's words cross his mind. He wonders why he's being treated this way and imagines what the team leader might do if he performs better than Jinam. His thoughts shift to Dong's teasing, recalling how the panda had been pushing him around. Wang seethes internally, wishing he could confront Dong outside of work. The memory of Jonna Kim's stern attitude surfaces next, and he thinks about her colder demeanor compared to the rest, but acknowledges that she at least explains things to him. While completing push-ups, Wang feels the strain of the increasing gravitational pull. He begins to question how much pressure he can withstand and wonders how long he's supposed to keep going. He acknowledges that this pressure is likely unbearable for anyone else, and the thought of Jinam fainting comes to mind. Wang pushes on, determined to show what he's truly capable of. Suddenly, a voice interrupts his concentration, asking him a simple multiplication question. Wang, somewhat irritated, answers confidently, but the response is dismissed as too easy. The team leader orders a more difficult question, and Wang answers again without hesitation. The conversation turns to suspicions about whether Wang might be under the influence of performance-enhancing substances. The team leader orders a test for later, leaving the group unsure of what to expect. When the training session ends, Wang steps out of the grabbing machine feeling lighter and stronger. He credits his mixed immortal and transformer blood for his ability to endure. As the doors open, Jonna Kim hands him a handkerchief, offering a rare show of support. The panda expresses surprise at how quickly Wang completed the training. The team leader, as usual, is curt, telling Wang to return to his place. As the team moves on, Wang is called over by a man from the internal facilities team, who offers him the opportunity to relax during his breaks. The team leader seems frustrated, asking for the records, but Wang, still processing the strange interaction, wonders about the meaning behind it. After leaving the training room, Wang feels a boost of confidence. He reflects on how someone from the facilities team showed interest in him, while the team leader stayed behind to check the records. His thoughts are interrupted by Jonna Kim, who criticizes his tone during the introduction. Wang, caught off guard, apologizes, wondering if this will finally earn him the respect of his peers. Panda hurries the team, reminding them to get back to work. Wang, eager to prove himself, follows them quickly. He's handed a stack of thick books to memorize, and his heart sinks as he realizes just how much he's expected to learn in a short time. Panda informs him that he has 4 days to memorize the entire material, leaving Wang in shock. He wonders if the panda is out of his mind, but the team leader quickly steps in, explaining that memorizing these details is essential for survival in their line of work. Knowledge of the enemy, the potions, and machinery is critical. Ice Queen Kim adds that understanding the structure of machinery is just as important as knowing how to use it. Wang is instructed to follow orders without question. Wang acknowledges the situation, repeating to himself that he understands, but is still uneasy about the tight time frame. He attempts to speak up, but before he can finish, the panda interrupts, revealing that it only took him 1 day to memorize the material. Ice Queen chimes in, saying it took her 3 days, while the team leader claims it only took him 2. Wang, feeling a mix of frustration and disbelief, sarcastically wonders what NASA is up to. The panda then informs him that after 4 days, they will test his knowledge. The team leader adds a little more pressure, telling Wang that for every mistake he makes, he'll be sent to the training center for an hour. Wang becomes visibly anxious, wondering what kind of punishment he's being subjected to. The team leader, noticing his discomfort, asks if he can't handle it and suggests quitting if it's too much. Wang hesitates for a moment, then firmly declares that he'll go through with it. Ice Queen and the panda observe him closely, as does the team leader. Meanwhile, a man sitting in front of a screen is reviewing something. The scene shifts to a flashback where the team leader is speaking to the same man, asking him to confirm something again. The man mentions that it's first place, and the team leader questions further, wondering what place exactly. The man, slightly annoyed, tells him it's the 12th time he's been asked. The team leader seems indifferent, not caring much about the answer. The man comments on the subject, noting that this case seems unique, with the person being particularly skilled and possibly a special mixed type. The man ponders this, considering how rare it is for immortals to have such strong physiques. He mentions that if the team leader is considering sending him away, they would gladly welcome him. But before anything more can be said, the team leader walks away, dismissing the conversation with a curt, "That'll be all." Back in the present, the man thinks to himself about Jungbong Li, wondering if the team leader is planning to train him. He observes that it seems like things are starting to get intense. Guang reflected on his current phase, realizing that the probationary period was meant for new hires to understand the company and assess their fit. The internet confirmed that this time was designed for familiarizing oneself with roles and responsibilities. He accepted that he had much to learn at Hualem. During a training session, the Ice Queen questioned Guang about the materials used in bulletproof and blade-proof gear. He confidently answered that it was a synthetic fiber made of balanced leather and Kevlar. Panda was impressed and praised the answer, while the team leader dismissed it as an easy question. The Ice Queen remained silent. Guang added more detail, explaining that the material was more durable than diamond, capable of deflecting both bullets and blades and resistant to extreme heat and cold. The team leader interrupted with a sharp no, throwing Guang off. Confused, Guang internally struggled to recall the correct answer and guessed wheel knight. The team leader questioned his confidence, but Guang stuck with his answer despite being unsure. The team leader then revealed it was incorrect and scolded him for locking in an uncertain answer, pushing Guang into frustration. Soon after, Guang's exams began with 10 questions each day. He consistently got 3 wrong. Determined to improve, he considered what to train first. Hualem's in-house facilities were impressive, offering various types of training. Guang decided to begin with the physical training center, where he met Teacher Park. She noted how frequently he had been training. Guang responded politely, though inwardly admitted it was because he had failed his memorization tests. Teacher Park appreciated seeing him around more. Next, Guang visited the Pain Resistance Training Center. There, Teacher Kim was calmly sitting in 100 degrees Celsius heat, encouraging students to savor the pain. Guang greeted him, only to be told that he was still alive. Shocked by the harsh remark, Guang wondered why anyone would say such a thing. He moved on to explore other training centers. He passed through dynamic visual acuity training and sensory control training, followed by hologram sparring training and more. Eventually, he returned to Teacher Lee, stating that he felt stiff. Teacher Lee reminded him that pain resistance training was only meant to be done once a week. Guang acknowledged this. In his thoughts, he realized even the training manager had started to think he was a freak. Back at the office, Guang noticed something unusual on his desk and asked what it was. Panda simply smiled and teased him, saying he could quit if it was too much. Mentioning that Jinim and Mio had already memorized the material, their team leader chimed in, praising them as the top 2. These remarks angered Guang, who silently vowed to memorize everything no matter what. However, the next day, he still got 4 questions wrong. After finishing his work, Guang returned home completely exhausted. His mother greeted him for dinner. He asked about his father, and she explained that he was away on another business trip. Guang realized it had been a month since he'd last seen his dad and regretted not being able to ask him about work due to the company's confidentiality policies. The presence of supernatural lie detector tests ensured no secrets could be shared. Calling out to his mother, Guang brought up his difficulties at work. She asked if the company was mistreating him. He reassured her that it wasn't abuse, but simply a steep learning curve. She responded that it sounded like the company trusted him. Guang admitted how hard things had been. She immediately told him to quit if it was too difficult. Surprised by her calmness, Guang internally admired her attitude, realizing he shouldn't complain. When asked if it was about money, he said it was partly that, but there were other reasons too. He reminded himself that this path was his choice and believed it was the most reliable way to reach his goals. That's why he couldn't give up yet. The next day at the office, Panda tested him on question 65. Guang confidently answered Wheel Knight. At that moment, the Ice Queen handed him a template for the report. Guang continued managing office duties, exercising, studying from the books, and attending important calls. Eventually, the 2-week mark arrived. Having completed all tasks and memorized everything, Guang suddenly found himself with nothing to do. He reopened the books and reviewed the structure of Hualem. He noted that Hualem had 4 divisions. The external security team under the dispatch division had 3 primary responsibilities. First, to provide emergency relief to designated areas in case of black holes. Second, to respond to supernatural terrorist activities, typically handled by Security Team 2. Third, to offer support to other teams as needed. While most teams consisted entirely of purebloods, their team included a pureblood leader, a mixed senior assistant, a super drug-enhanced senior employee, and a mixed new recruit. This diverse composition led their team, External Security Team 3, to take on support roles. Guang wondered if the job was usually this slow and decided to go train. On his way, he spotted the team leader chatting and laughing with Mio. Seeing them together, Guang was surprised, recognizing them as F-Bomb and Forsythia Holmes. Both noticed him. The team leader addressed Guang and confirmed he was headed for training. Guang responded affirmatively. The team leader asked if he was enjoying himself, to which Guang replied that he was doing okay. Out of the blue, the team leader asked if Guang used to be a bully in high school. Taken aback by the question, Guang said no. The team leader pressed further, mentioning feedback from other recruits that hinted otherwise. With confidence, Guang stated that his school had no bullies. When asked why, he explained that he had told them to stop. The team leader inquired what he had told them to stop, and Guang clarified that it was bullying. When asked if they had listened, Guang answered that they had. He didn't like seeing others suffer. This exchange unsettled the nearby employees, making them anxious. The team leader then referred to behaviors like taking money and cussing others out, implying Guang had been dominant. Showing a punch gesture, he asked if Guang had done any fighting before. Guang admitted to a little experience. The team leader suddenly proposed a sparring match between the two of them. This challenge shocked Mio and everyone else present. Guang, full of confidence, accepted.